record button. There we go. All right. Okay, gang, we're getting ready to roll. So our class is expired listings, which most of you have never heard of because we haven't had an expired listing in 2 years now. For sale by owners, which there's not a whole heck of a lot of for sale by owners because the market doesn't really demand for sale by owners. So, and then what is more pertinent to today's class, so those of you watching on video, today is January 6th, 2012. If we were videoing this thing back in January of 2005 or 6, was there a big for sale by owner market?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so we would focus a lot potentially on for sale by owners. When we get into a hot for sale by owner market again, we'll refresh this class and we'll do something specifically for sale by owners. So we're going to spend 0 time on for sale by owners today. Expired listings. Are there a lot of expired listings in today's market? Not a whole heck of a lot. If we were doing business in a more normal, traditional market at any time, do you have a fair amount of expired listings? Sure. Are they great resources to prospect? Absolutely. Okay. We don't have a lot of those today, so we're going to spend very little, if no time, talking about expired listings today. Having said that, we are going to spend a little bit of time talking about, I'm looking for a pen. Hold on just a second.
Move that, I think that's true. Somebody like that.
Okay.
Somebody laughing in here from the last one.
Alright. So anyway, we are going to spend some time talking about expireds, but briefly. Probably going to 5-10 minutes max going through expireds. So what we're going to talk about mostly, which is very, very pertinent today, is prospecting, notice of sales, and notices of default. Now, when the market changes, and when we get out of this current cycle of basically foreclosures that we're in, prospecting for notices of sale and notices of default will probably be something that you'll do less focus on, and we'll be refocusing on for sale by owners that are expired and so on and so forth. Now, I lump them together, quite honestly, is because the prospecting, the method of prospecting for all of these is pretty darn similar, okay? If I wanted to prospect for expireds and notice of defaults on the same day, I would probably do very similar things, and the same thing with for sale by owners. So the first thing, and we're going to start with a brief, we're going to start with a brief kind of rundown of expireds. So let me just make myself a note here. And if I was going to search expired listings, is that new, by the way? Back up here just a minute. Matrix and tempo, when did they put the tempo up here?
It's always been there.
Always as of when?
I think so.
I've always seen it every time I went online.
No, I don't see it.
That's
I have the other.
No, that's new. They must have just changed something. It used to say, what did that used to say? Whoever knows the answer gets a buck, because it didn't say CRS tempo.
It wasn't tempo, it was something else.
It said something else. Okay, well, it did say something else. Okay, well, we're going to go into the matrix, and there's probably better ways to do this. Are you going to join us, Robin?
Yeah.
Well, pull up
I'm looking for a warm spot.
Oh, crud. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Oh, thank you. Capital C?
Nope.
Mercado, there you go. It's Mercado. Okay, I'm in the MLS. Oops, I'm trying to get in the MLS. Are you sure it's not capital?
Nope, it's not capital.
101?
Let me do it.
I already typed in 101. This is Anna, my trusted right-hand assistant.
Hello.
For those of you that don't know Anna.
I was just summoned by Anna.
Oh, I think she's looking for you out in the lobby. Anna has the magic touch.
It was capital.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. We watched it.
Liar. I saw her hit the shift key. Okay, I'm in the MLS. Now, if you are going to be searching expired, this is the deal with any type of, which by the way, this is prospecting. This class is on prospecting. Forget about expireds or for sale by owners or notice of defaults or anything like that. We are prospecting, okay? What am I doing today? I'll give you two choices. I am teaching a class on how to do expireds and for sale by owners or notice of defaults. That's option one, I'm teaching a class. Or option two, I am prospecting for new agents and retention of existing agents. What am I doing today? Am I teaching or am I prospecting?
Prospecting.
I'm prospecting. You've been in the class before. Everything we do is prospecting, okay? When I'm teaching these classes, in your mind, I'm teaching. In my mind, I'm prospecting, doing a little bit of different type of prospecting. If you were a brand new agent looking to get into the business that didn't work here, then I would truly be prospecting. I would say, hey, come on over and sit in our class, it's free. You would think as a student in the class, you would think that you were being taught. You're not being taught, you're being prospect. Now as agents that already, which by the way, if you're watching the video and you don't work at Coldwell Banker, Pioneer Real Estate, Town and Country, or Realty Center, I'm prospecting for you. I want you to see that I'm a good teacher, therefore this might be a good place to work. Now if you're already an agent in the office, what am I doing? Once I've got you, what do I got to do for you? Keep you. Recruiting and retention. So retention is what this is all about, and retention is what? I'm still prospecting. It never changes. So we are prospecting for sale by owners. Now the key to prospecting is what? You have to be consistent. You do not go out and work expired listings for one day and determine you are a success or a failure at working at expired listings. Okay? Because I guarantee if you go out working expired listings, for sale by owners, or notice of defaults, and you do it for one day, 1 week, or 1 month, and then you stop, your experience will you will later describe your experience as unsuccessful. Oh, I tried that, it doesn't work. How long did you try it for? Oh, a little while. How long did you go out and work expired listings? Oh, I did it for 3 days. And I got nothing. Therefore, it doesn't work. Great. If that's what your plan is, stop. There is no point whatsoever in even trying this. You have to have a consistent plan. Oh, and by the way, yes, it would not be a training class by me if we didn't talk about goldmine. With a contact management system, you don't go out and prospect for anything unless you have a contact management system. Because like we talked about, what was the class we did a couple of days ago? We did a class on something. Managing buyers and sellers. Okay? If you want to manage buyers and sellers, you need a system. Okay? This is, we could rename this class, Managing Prospects for sale by owners, expired listings, and whatever. If you're going to go out, how many doors can we knock on today? If we started, let's pretend it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and we wanted to go out and find, let's suppose there was 50 expired listings in a reasonable geographic area within 5 miles of this office. How many of those doors could we knock on today?
All 50.
All 50.
It'd be a long day. It'd be hard. You could do it. You'd be tired. You know, I go out prospecting, I go out for a couple hours, I knock on 10 doors, I'm pooped, man. I feel like I went to Disneyland, for God's sakes. Okay? But you could do it. Okay? Now let's suppose you knocked on 50 doors. How many people are you going to talk to?
Yeah.
Half? Let's just suppose it's 10. Okay? Are you going to remember their names, their addresses, their phone numbers, their circumstances, what they said, what they did, what they're going to do? Did they tell you to call you back? Are you going to remember that? No. So if you don't have a system, and I don't care what it is, you know gold mine is mine, but if you do not have a system to put those 10 people in, because tomorrow you're going to have 10 more, and then 10 more, because we're going to do this every day, or at least going to do it 2 or 3 days a week. Let's suppose we just do this for 2 days a week for 6 months. Okay, well that's 2 days a week times 4. Okay, that's 8. And then times 6 months. Okay, so what do we got there? We got what, 40? Huh?
48.
42, 48, whatever. I forgot what numbers I put out there. But at any rate, times 10. We now have 500 people. We have 480, we have 500 people. If you don't have a system that says, this is who I talk to, and this is what they want, and this is when they want it, and this is when I'm supposed to call them back, and then don't do any of this. So stop right now unless you have the ability, and I don't care if it's on the computer. Actually, I do care if it's on the computer. My personal opinion is if you do not have a computerized contact management system, you will fail. You will fail in this business. And I see a lot of people here. We got someone with, happy Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Yes. We got our tablet user over here. If you don't have some sort of computerized system to manage your contacts, you will fail. Okay? Or you'll close 2 deals a year, which for many of us is failure, because 2 deals a year is not going to pay our bills. Okay, back to the MLS. Now, everybody here should have their own personalized login to the multiple listing service. Okay? Who knows how to run a hot sheet? Okay, I see a couple of hands. If you don't know how to run a hot sheet, you need to learn. This is not the day to learn how to run a hot sheet. Okay? Now, I'm not going to run my personal hot sheet because I have someone in my office run my personal hot sheet for me every day, and the information on there is important to me, and I don't want to mess it up. The reason I don't want to mess it up, what happens when if I run my hot sheet this morning at 8 o'clock, and then I wait till tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, what happens? What does the hot sheet give me? Any new data. Okay? So I unfortunately, for training purposes, I can't run my own personal hot sheet, because if I do, I'm going to mess up my assistant tomorrow morning, because the data is not going to work, because everything that she ran this morning at 8 is now going to be chopped off. So I'm not going to run my own, but you all need to have your own personal hot sheet, okay? And you need to run it every day. And you can have multiple hot sheets, okay? But on this specific hot sheet, since we're talking about expired listings, okay, you at least want your hot sheet to include expired listings for the area that you want to work, okay? And again, you can have multiples. Let's just, for example, you have a special hot sheet that says, give me active, pendings, closed, and expired listings for my city, okay? Now, depending on how big your city is, and you can have multiple cities, you can say, give me Riverside and give me Corona, and maybe let's throw in Norco, whatever. You can have multiple. You can go as big or small as you want. But at any rate, what we're looking for specifically is expired. So we're going to do this. We're not going to do this if I was running a hot sheet. Obviously, we would run this different. So we're going to do a search residential. I don't want to do that. Bear with me. I'm certainly not an MLS expert. Oh, I'm sorry. Residential.
You can actually go over to.
Here we go. Okay. I'm going to run, yeah, I know, if I'm already messing up here, I don't run the MLS every day, so you guys can probably, I used to be able to do backflips in this thing. But anyway, as you can already tell, I'm not an expert. But what I've done is I've said, give me expired status. I want expired listings, because that's what I'm looking for. I want listings that expired when? Last night. Okay, that'll give me everything in my area. That expiration date, what's today? Today's the 6th. 01/05/2012. Now I do need to pick a city. So let's go back up here and
259.
just do it here. Easier, okay. You can put the city in, or you can put the area. There's our 259 for Moreno Valley. Now if we want to do multiple cities, that's fine. Now it's telling me, maybe I've done something wrong, because it's telling me I've got no matches. Expired listings last night in
You have
Moreno
to
Valley.
put your city at the top. You don't have a city up there.
Do I have to have a city there?
No, you don't. No.
I don't think I do.
No, your date, I think your date is wrong.
Did I mess my date up? This is why the hot sheet's nice, because once you set the, my date is right. I have to put the actual, oops, revise. You are correct. I think I have to put in 2012 for my date. Oops, I'm trying that. Actually, it looks like it fixed it for me. 1512, expired Moreno Valley. I got nothing. What am I missing?
How about 1512 with the plus sign?
Well, but I wanted everything to expire on that day.
Don't put it in that expired date. Go up to the top and put it in status date.
Status date.
That's a good idea.
Erase
Yeah,
that
take
one.
that date out
Erase that one.
and.
Where?
Status.
Status
Status
date.
date on the right next to list price.
Next to this
Expiration,
price.
status date.
You need to
Status
change
date.
that, you
Try
need to
that.
change that city and see what
Okay.
happens to.
And I think status date is like
Plus-
1 day or 2 days. Put on the question mark, they'll tell you how you do. And
All right.
what you're gonna take.
I don't like this.
Put 1 plus.
Yeah.
Or, right, is that how it is?
Just
You have to
one,
put a plus one, plus
just
on it.
one.
010512.
There you go.
All right, well, something's wrong because it says we only got 3. I know there's got to be more than 3, but for illustration
No, that's it.
purposes, let's pretend we know what the heck we're doing, okay? There's something wrong in our search. But, okay, so for illustration purposes, I've now ran my hot sheet. My hot sheet has a whole bunch of stuff, which, by the way, different class. What else does my hot sheet have? Because we asked for what? Active listings. Give me new active listings, all right? So let's just pretend, let's keep it simple. There's 5 new active listings. Let's pretend there's 5 new pending listings, and let's pretend there's 3 expired listings, and maybe there's 4 solds. So for now, as I'm looking at my expireds, I'm also looking at the actives, because what are we doing? We are prospecting, okay? So if I have a property that's expired on Harewood Drive in Moreno Valley, and I see an active listing that's close to Harewood Drive in Moreno Valley, I want to be more productive. I want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, okay? And on top of that, when I go, which by the way, what are we going to do to Harewood Drive in Moreno Valley?
Knock on the door.
We're going to go knock on the door. If there happens to be a new listing in that neighborhood or close to that neighborhood, I might want to call them up while I'm there and say, hey, Mr. New Listing, this is Lance Martin with Coldwell Banker. I'm going to be in the neighborhood this afternoon between 2 and 4 o'clock. I see that your property just came on the market last night or today. Would it be okay if I came up and previewed your house? Do you have a buyer? No, I don't. Well, why are you coming by? Because I'm going to be in the neighborhood later today, and I'd like to take a look at all of the new inventory that comes onto the market so I can be better prepared to represent future buyers and so on and so forth. And you know what? I do have a few buyers I'm working with, and maybe this might be the one. Maybe leave that last part out, but whatever. So while I'm in the neighborhood, is there anything wrong with going out and previewing new inventory that comes onto the market? Not only is there nothing wrong with it, you should be doing that. I've been preaching this forever if you've sat in these classes before. You need to know the inventory. You need to know what is happening out there. Especially if the listing that's brand new on the market is anywhere close to the property that you're going to be expiring on, because maybe that will tell you some information. You've got a brand new listing listed for X. You have an expired listing that's maybe listed for X plus. Okay? And if you're not quite the market expert yet, which by the way, if you do this for 6 months every day, you go out and you run your hot sheet, you look at the actives, you look at the pendings, you look at the solds, you look at the expireds, will you quickly become the expert? You will look at your hot sheet, you will just give it a 30-second gaze, and you will know. The 5 new listings that just came in the market are completely overpriced. What a joke. Oh, look at that. Mrs. Jones finally sold that property. I can't believe it took so long because I thought that one was priced right. Oh, I was wondering what the sales price was on 123 Main Street. I see it's now closed. Let me check that out. Oh, look at that. It was listed for $160 and it sold for $158. Okay? And then you get all the expires. You'll know. You'll automatically know. And you may, let's just pretend, let's take a look at Harwood. This property is, which is very interesting. This property is expired. What was the last thing that they did with the sale, with the list price? They rose it. Now let's just pretend, for illustration's sake, that I know this house inside and out, and I know that this house is going to sell for no more than $52,000. I may choose not to even go knock on their door. Oh, I'm going to waste my time. Okay? The last thing they did is they raised their price. The house wasn't listing, and I know, because I'm the expert, that it's already $40,000 overpriced. What's the point? Okay? Okay, so now let's get back to our expireds. This is what I want to do. I want to go to these properties, which is why you geographically you have to plan your day. Okay? If you're going to do this and you're going to say, well, I really like the east end of Moreno Valley, and boy, I like Corona, and you know what? There's this piece of They're going to spend all day on the road. Okay? So when you're prospecting for this type of client, be tight. Otherwise, you're going to spend all your time driving around. All right? So get it tight, get it narrow, and make sure you know what you're doing. Okay, so very simple. Now again, let's do a little bit of research before we just go knock on our door over here on Harwood. Okay. Okay, so I got a house, I got a $89,000 price. What I'm looking for is the property occupied. Okay? Help me out here.
Owner.
Call first.
Owner? Okay, owner, call first. Now, again, I told you we're not going to spend a lot of time on doing expireds. So this is going to be my one and only example. You want to do yourself a favor, okay? Before you just put on a list and start driving around, take a look at the properties. Is it occupied? Is it vacant? Does it make sense to go knock on the door of a vacant expired listing? Who are you going to talk to? Okay? Does it make sense to knock on the door of a tenant occupied expired listing? Probably not. Okay? So do your homework. Make sure you know what you're doing. If it says it's owner occupied, there you go. That's your opportunity. So let's just pretend this one is owner occupied. Knock, knock, knock. Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. My name is Lance Martin. I'm with Global Banker Pioneer Real Estate. And you probably are aware of this already because I'm sure I'm not the first person to knock on your door. And you may have received some phone calls already today, which, by the way, that used to be the preferred method of prospecting expireds, is we used to call them. But a little while back, when the property when it expired, they stripped out the phone numbers for the sellers. I think they shouldn't have done that here, no?
Nope, it's still up there.
Still there.
Well, that's because it probably went back to the bank at the short sale.
Possibly so. There's something strange about the search we did. If we do a real expired listing search, it strips out the contact information for the owner. Just takes it out. If they don't, we don't want you to call them. Okay,
The
fine.
property's only on the market for 90 days.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever.
Something's wrong.
The property is expired. It's I don't have the owner's phone number, but again, in the old days we used to call. So I'm here. I'm your neighborhood expert. As a matter of fact, if you are really good and you are really consistent about that, then what you get to do is you get to say, oh, by the way, I don't know if you remember me, but when your property came on the market 90 days ago, I don't know if you recall, but I was the one who called you, and I was up here the first day your property was listed. And remember I told you how nice your pool was? And you asked me if you thought the property was priced right, and I said, good luck. That was my way of politely telling you no. And now I'm back 90 days later, and are you serious about selling your house today? Can I help you sell your house today? Can I offer you a market analysis today? Are you still going to consider selling your house today? You know, if I brought you a buyer today at X, would you sell? Okay? What you say, this is not a class about scripts. Okay? Everyone gets hung up on scripts. Oh, I need a script, I don't know what to say. Nonsense. You do not get a script. Okay? I've been doing this for 25 years. For 25 years, I've been told you have to have a script. Give your agent scripts. The best script that you're going to have is this. My name's Lance. Do you want to sell your house? You look really nervous, Lance. I'm terrified. Okay, thanks. Or, this is even a better script. Nobody's home. Okay? You hear them coming. You hear someone turn off the TV, and you are running away from the door. You laugh because you know it's true. You don't want to talk to that person, but you can at least go home and tell yourself, I knocked on some doors, I did it. Okay? But you're terrified when someone knocks and answers the door. Well, guess what? The second time you answer the door, my name's Lance Martin, you want to sell your house? Not so good, but a little bit better. The third time, a little bit better. The 8th time, a little bit better. The 25th time, now you got it going a little bit. Okay? Wait a minute, when I say this, it's amazing. They normally say this. Okay, now I got to figure out what the next best response would be. So let me try this one. Well, that one didn't work. So now on the 50th door, I say this, they say this, I say this, they say this. And after you've done 100 or 200 doors, you got it. You don't need a script. Well, wait a minute, the new agents, they need help, and you have to, have you guys seen these scripts? Have you practiced these scripts? Have you role-played these scripts? They're terrible. It's awful. They mean nothing. Get off your ass, go knock on some doors, and play. Practice, okay? Yes, practice on the public. Yes, embarrass yourself a little bit. Nobody's going to die. Nobody's going to go to jail. Next time you're in that situation, you'll do better. So, at any rate, we're going to go knock on some doors from expireds. What you say is irrelevant. You will figure it out. The whole point of doing this is you want an appointment for a listing on sellable listings. If this listing is unsellable and the client is obvious it's unsellable, thank you very much. Have you learned something? You absolutely have learned something. You have learned that a house that looks like this on this street cannot sell for $95,000 today. That's valuable information. Now you know. So the next time you're knocking on doors, one of the things that we struggle with when it comes to script is I don't know what to say. Well, you now have something to say to the next person who lives around the block, and they say, well, what do you think's going on in the market? Well, I'm not really sure, but I do know one thing for sure. I just looked at this house that's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, so many square feet. It was listed for $95,000 for 90 days, and it didn't sell. So I think I can say with certainty that $95,000 for that type of house is wrong. Now, after you have 100 of those experiences behind you, then you're going to be able to actually provide some more valuable advice. Well, I'll tell you what. In the last 3 months, there's been 4 houses that are model matches exactly to yours, and they sold between $112,000 and $119,000. I know you're at 132. That's why you didn't sell. The property on Main Street, South Street, North Street, and East Street, exact same properties, they sold between X and X. If I brought you an offer between X and X, would you be willing to sell? No. Okay? Thank you very much. Okay? But that comes from experience. That comes from knowing the neighborhood. You know what's going on. And then, God forbid, you become the people who are selling these houses. Well, now you have 5, 10, 15, 20 listings. And yes, it's possible. Well, I'm not an REO agent. There's no way I'm ever going to have 5 listings at the same time or 20 listings at the same time. Says who? What do you mean you're never going to have 20 listings at the same time? Of course you're going to have 20 listings at the same time. You go out and you do what we're talking about in this class today, you're going to have more listings than you're going to know what to do with. You're going to be hiring that assistant. Okay? All right. So, again, I'm already hung up too much on expireds. We're going to take what we've talked about with the expireds, and we're going to take this into the notice of default arena. It works exactly the same way. Now, I'm going to ask you to spend some money. I'm really sorry. There's no way around it. You have to spend some money if you're going to be successful working notice of defaults. Sorry. It's going to cost you $40 a month. $39.99 a month. Okay? What you have to do, huh?
You get like a 50% discount if you enter your nurse number.
Yep, but I think I don't know what I pay, but if you don't enter your NERDS number, that's your NAR number, I think it's $49.99. If you do, I think it's $39.99. So you get a 20% discount or whatever it is. Okay, where I am is I'm at Foreclosure Radar. Okay? This is a required piece of equipment for successful prospecting, not just for notice of defaults and notice of sales. In this market today, this is as important as a pen to sign the contract. Okay? I mean, it's literally that elementary of a piece of a tool that you're going to need in order to be successful. This is foreclosureradar.com, by the way. So you can do a Google search on Foreclosure Radar, or just go www.foreclosureradar.com. If you're not a user, they used to give you like a 30-day. Now, from what someone told me, you only get like a 3-day trial. 3 days? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. You don't want to commit to $40 a month. This is what I want you to do. What I want you to commit to doing is 3 days of what we're going to train right here. Okay? Do not sign up for your 3-day free trial until you have 3 days ahead of you. And then I want you to spend 10 hours a day for those 3 days. Actually, I want you to spend as many hours as you possibly can for those 3 days. Maybe that's going to be 15 hours a day. And I want you to do what we're going to do. And this is what we're going to do. Now, this is the part that's nice about this. Let's pretend let's pretend for a moment, I'm going to use my old neighborhood. Paulina. Oops. Spelling does count. And location, radius, oh, I just messed up. Okay, well what we're going to do is we're going to do a radius search. Now I got to type that address in again. 10181, Valley. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a radius search within a half a mile of that address. Now, what this address is you pick the address. What area do you feel like working today? Maybe you have a new listing, okay? Maybe the office has a new listing. Maybe somebody else has a listing that you did. You pull up your hot sheet, you look at a house that is of interest to you, and a price range that is of interest to you, and an area that is of interest to you. You say, I want to go look at that house. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Lance Martin at Coldwell Banker. I see you just listed your, by the way, it can be listed with anybody. I just see you listed your house with Joe at ABC Real Estate. And by the way, if you know Joe and you have nice things to say about Joe, say them. Oh, by the way, I've known Joe for 20 years. He's a great guy. You've got a great agent, and I got to tell you, he's going to take really good care of you. By the way, I saw your property came up on the market. I'd like to preview it today because I come by between 10 and 12 o'clock. Great. Now, if you do know Joe and Joe's an ass, you keep that to yourself. We are not prospecting this seller. Okay? We're previewing property. We're not going out there to get this listing. They just listed their house last night. Okay? So, but at any rate, let's suppose I really like this house, and I'm going to go up, and now I'm going to search this, and it's going to do its little magic, and it's going to return 34 properties. Is that a good day's work? That's a good day's work. So let's take a look at this map. Let's zoom in here a little bit. And which, by the way, if we also run our expired listing hot sheet and we do a map search, we can do a double-double. Okay? We can go out and we can take a look at these properties, and at the same time, there's a property on Lake Vista that just expired. I'm in the neighborhood, right? So, and then God forbid, there's a for sale by owner on Bluebill. I'm in the neighborhood. Knock, 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 Mr. and Mrs. For sale by owner, Lance Martin of Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate. Are you having any luck? Have you considered listing? You don't want to pay a commitment? I don't know. You come up with a script. There's a million scripts out there. Knock on their doors. Find out if there's any opportunity. Would you like to borrow some open house signs? Do you have all the legal disclosures to sell a house? I'm going to give you, do you have a blank contract? I don't know. Can I have a cup of coffee? Whatever. All right, so anyway, getting back to our expireds. Now, if you spend any time on this website, let me see if I can expand this a little bit. Okay. I love this website. There is so much data here. We could do a 3-day class on just these 34 properties in this circle. But we don't have 3 days. We got about another hour and a half. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with this one. This one has an A, which, by the way, the lingo that they use on this site I don't like. A stands for, in this world, stands for auction. Okay? What it really is, the A on Foreclosure Radar are properties that have notice of defaults filed against them. Okay? Now, before we get into notice of default and notice of sale prospecting, you guys need to be, quite honestly, experts at notice of sales and notice of default. So here is a 60-second expert crash course on the foreclosure process. I stopped making my house payments. At some point, month 1 would be very rare. It used to be sometime between month 3 and month 5 or 6, we would get a notice of default, an A. Okay? Now, in January of 2012, how many months could it be before they file a notice of default?
12 to 24.
12, 24, 36. There's people that have been in their house for 2 and 3 years, that have not made a payment that still do not have an A filed against them, a notice of default. Now again, you need to kind of know that, because it's entirely possible that you may be knocking on someone's door who stopped making their house payments 4 or 5 months ago and the bank's getting really aggressive. Or it's also entirely possible you may be knocking on someone's door who hasn't made a payment in 3 years. And for whatever reason, they've slipped through the crack, or they've become part of the process, the shadow inventory process right now. So at any rate, at some point the bank files a notice of default, a NOD, an A in foreclosure radar's terms. What happens? Clock is ticking. How many days do we have? 90 days. Notice of defaults run for 90 days. Okay? What happens after the notice of default runs its 90 days? What's the next step? That's the notice of sale, the dreadful NOS, and that is called a, oh, actually I got it backwards. Excuse me. Rewind the tape. The P's, all of the green P's, those are the notice of defaults. In foreclosure radar's world, pre-foreclosure. Okay? The notice of sales are the A's. That is the, that happens after the notice of default runs its course. Okay? How much time do we have? 21 days. Okay? Now, 21 days from the time the notice of sale is filed, in theory, what happens on day 21?
Goes to the court steps.
It goes to the courthouse steps and is sold. And it then becomes a B, which in foreclosure radar's terms is a bank-owned property. But in the real world, it is supposedly, it's the foreclosure. Okay, it's now gone to sale. It's no longer owned by Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner. It's now owned by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or whoever the heck it happens to be. Okay? Now, I took 3 minutes and I gave you a real basic understanding of that. If that was 3 minutes was too short, then we're going to do another class on the process, and we'll spend 2 hours talking about the process. But you need to know that. Because when you're knocking on these people's doors, number one, you need to know where they are in the process. And assuming that you're going to have some dialogue with them, you need to be the professional. You need to be the one that is telling them, well, this is how much time you have. And you better act quickly, or you better act within this window. Because if you don't, you're out of time. Okay? You're not gonna make it. Which, by the way, we talk about prospect when we are prospecting for notice of defaults and notice of sales. What is our primary target? What are we looking for when we go knock on these people's doors? What type of business are we looking for? Are we looking for buyers? Are we looking for sellers? Are we looking for short sale listings? What are we looking for? We're looking for short sale listings. I mean, for the most part, we're going to run into homeowners who are in foreclosure, who don't have equity. Not always, but some of these people, you'll what are you doing? You're in foreclosure, you got $40,000 in equity here. What are you doing? Let's get this thing listed. Okay? That's going to be rare. Most of these people owe $400,000. The house is worth $200,000. So what are we looking for? Short sale listing. If you don't want short sale listings, don't do this. Okay? Now, 2 years ago, or even 12 months ago, I would not have taught a class on this, because short sale listings, at least 2 years ago, were such a poor use of your time as far as your ability to get them closed. I would have said stay away. Okay? Now, I say don't stay away. I say go get them. Does that mean that they're easy and they're going to be wonderful? No, they still stink. They're hard. They're hard. Okay? They're no fun. There's a good thing and a bad thing when it comes to commissions on short sale listings. When I knock on, let's grab one. Let's go find somebody who wants to list their house. Okay, so here I've got this property on Lawless. Let me click on it. Okay, Kathy Jones. I think she's a past client of mine. Let's find out. Because I have my laptop computer in my car, And I'm going to my contact management system. And I don't see Kathy Jones. Was it Kathy? Was it Kathy or Katie? Kathy S. Jones. Okay, unfortunately I'm going to have a whole bunch of Joneses. Let's try it anyway. This is why it's really, really nice to have a contact management system that you've worked in for 1,000 years. Let's see. I've got a Chris and Catherine Jones. Let's see if I got another Kathy down here. JK.
There.
Catherine Jones, got a couple Catherine Joneses.
And
There's a
Kathy
There's a
Jones.
Kathy Jones. Huh! Look at that!
Oh,
Contact management 101. All right. Now let's see what's going on with this. And this is this is wonderful. Okay. This Amber works on my team. Amber's my assistant. Amber has an action on her calendar for May 10th of 2012 to follow up. This lady called us regarding property management services. Called us, wanted us to manage her property. Now, number one, I better warn Amber. Better be careful. Let's see what Amber has to say here. Property address. Oh, it looks like she lives maybe in Claremont. Sent her a mailer. This must be a rental property, possibly. Okay, but this is the cool part. Okay, I already know this lady. Not personally, but I have an idea. Now what can I do to this? I can knock on her door. Hey, Kathy Jones. My name's Lance Martin. I'm with Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate. That name may sound familiar to you, or at least the Coldwell Banker part, because I see based on my computer that you've already spoken with Amber in my office regarding property management services.
At the Claremont property, you're gonna knock on her door.
I don't know. She may not be at the Lawless property. Maybe her tenant's there. You're right. I might have to go to the Claremont property. Or do I have a phone number? Was there a phone number in here?
No.
I don't know. Was it
I
not that?
don't have a phone number there. I don't know how Amber got this lead. I'm not sure. There's not enough information for me to tell. Property address in Claremont. I don't know. She doesn't give me enough info. So, but I like this property. I like the Lawless property. I like it's up in Centermead Ranch. It's a neat house. It's certainly something I can sell. So I might want to call Amber first. Hey, what do you know about Kathy? Your notes are vague. But at any rate, hopefully I can find her. Knock, knock, knock. Kathy, Lance Martin, Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate. You've been talking to Amber about property management. Well, are you really sure about that? No, I'm not sure about it. Matter of fact, I think you've been talking to Amber in my office about property management. I'm a little confused because I see you've got this property on Lawless Road, and Amber says something about a property in Claremont. Are you the same Kathy Jones? Oh yeah, I remember Amber. Oh, anyway, I'm telling Amber right now not to put your property on our property management department because you are obviously headed for foreclosure, and we don't manage properties that are headed for foreclosure. Having said that, what are you going to do about this? What am I going to do about what? What are you going to do about this? And by the way, it's really nice. If you've got, I don't want to mess up your tablet. It's really nice. You guys have been through a couple classes. This is Diane Arnov's new approach
oh, yeah.
to prospecting for these folks. Knock, knock, knock. Are you Mrs. Lawless? Yes. What are you going to do about this? And what she's holding up is this. Now, that might not be your approach. I think Diane is half joking. But for those of you that know Diane, it's only half joking because that's who Diane is. Diane she's a little rough around the edges. Now, I would not necessarily be that. I might be a little different. I might kind of pull us up and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, by the way, be honest with your prospects. Tell them what you are doing, okay? If you go up there, Mrs. Jones, I'm Lance, I'm with Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate. And I'm out doing some prospecting today, and I'm frankly looking for houses that are, in default. And I ran across your property, and I see that. Where's my notice of sale? She has a sale date scheduled for 30 days from now. Sale date scheduled for February 6th. So I wouldn't necessarily say, "What are you gonna do about this? You got 30 days." There's a different approach to that. That's not my style, but my style might be. And again, by the way, can this be very, very difficult for some people to talk about? And the last thing in the world they want to talk about is with a stranger on their front porch. You better have some class, okay? As a general rule, I never ever would talk to anybody about this type of stuff if they answer the door and they have small children, or, you know, if a kid answers the door, hey, go get your mom. I want to talk to her about this foreclosure thing going on here. Okay? Let's be professional. Okay? But assuming, you know, it's you and an adult, I will tell you this, a lot of these people, maybe in the beginning or maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, having someone knocking on their door about this, might not have ever answered the door, or as soon as you would indicate you had anything to do with real estate, where I'm not interested, slam, or, you know, which, by the way, I don't mean to be vulgar, but you will get people that will say, get the fuck off my porch. Okay? Be prepared for that. Do not put your tail between your legs and go to your car, come back to your broker, and someone use the F word, and, you know, I'm very sorry to bother you. Bam! Okay? Has that happened to anybody in this room? I got a couple hands going. I've had it happen. I've knocked on thousands of people's doors. I've had many, many people in not so nice terms tell me to get the heck off of their porch and never come back. Okay? Whatever. Go to the next one.
God bless you.
Okay? Yeah, exactly. God bless you. That's right. That's the best reply back. All right. So at any rate, as I'm talking, assuming I get to talk to Kathy, knock, 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 Kathy, Global Banker, Pioneer Real Estate, I'm out doing some prospecting, specifically for properties that are in default, and you might even say, and this might be difficult for you to talk about, and if you don't want to talk about it, I understand, but to be blunt, you're in foreclosure and you're going to lose your house to sale in the next 30 days. Have you considered doing something about that? A little different tact maybe than what Diane's doing. I don't care what the script is. I don't care what the script is. Knock on the door, ask the question, okay? And maybe the question has nothing to do with the fact that it's properties in default. You might want to take the approach that you never mention it. Knock, knock, knock. I'm Lance with Global Banker Pioneer Real Estate. Have you considered selling your house? I'm in the neighborhood. Nope, not interested. Or maybe they are. So you ask a few more questions. They never bring up the fact that the property is in default. You make a decision whether you want to bring it up. You might want to be, for this particular person, under maybe little Johnny's there. Little John's there. Hey, Mrs. Jones, or maybe you don't even have Mrs. Jones. Just pretend like you don't know nothing about them. Lance Martin, Global Banker, Pioneer Real Estate, little Johnny's there. So I'm just in the neighborhood, I was looking at that, which by the way is true. I was looking at this new listing, right? I was looking at, that was my search. I wanted to go up and look at properties around. I was looking at this new listing up in the neighborhood at, you know, blah, 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 via Appalena Street. It's a really nice house. It's 4 bedrooms, blah, blah. And frankly, I just, you know, knocking on a few doors and, you know, anybody who might want to buy or sell in the neighborhood. Now let's suppose that door is opened and she opens the door and she indicates that, yeah, you know, my husband and I have talked about it. Little Johnny's standing there. Or not. If little Johnny's standing there, oh, well, actually, yeah, you better hurry because you're going to lose the thing in 30 days. Or not. So, oh, okay, great. You know, I'm pretty familiar with the neighborhood. I think your property might be worth X, but let me go back. Can I set an appointment? Come back. Is your husband going to be in town? How soon have you considered doing it? Are you going to put it on the market the next few days? Are you going to buy another house after you sell this one? Where are you going? Let the conversation flow. Which, by the way, you will have people that will, number one, say, get the F off my porch. And you will also have people that will invite you in for tea and cookies and lemonade. Or they won't invite you in, but you will literally be like, it's been very nice talking to you. Oh no, why don't you get down? Come on over. I'm going to tell you about Joe's house too. Okay, you know, figure that out. But ideally, you're looking for those clients to open the doors and say, yes, I'm interested in an appointment. You decide whether or not on the doorstep is the appropriate time to bring to their attention that you know their property is in default. Generally speaking, for me, the answer to that question is yes, I do bring it to their attention on the doorstep right then and there. Now, I don't think it's an appropriate time, but they open the door for me to follow up with a second appointment or follow up with some comps. Well, at that point in time, that second appointment or that follow-up call later in the evening, hey, Mrs. Jones, you asked me to get some information on what was going on for the property values in your neighborhood. I've done that. And by the way, to be completely honest with you, I knew this before I knocked on your door, but let's have a serious conversation now. You obviously have expressed some interest in selling your property. I know why. You realize you're going to lose your property to foreclosure in the next 60 days if you don't do something. I knew that this afternoon, but quite honestly, my approach was not to discuss that with you on the front porch of your property. But now we're discussing it. And remember, I think the earlier the better to introduce that into the conversation as you possibly can. But at any rate, the whole point of any sort of prospecting is to get an appointment, okay? And the appointment that we want to get is an appointment, in this particular case, to sit down and do a short sale presentation, okay? So, now, are you going to run into a bunch of empty houses?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Are you going to run into properties that are tenant occupied? Yes. What do we do with the ones that are tenant occupied?
Where
Knock,
are you gonna
knock.
go?
Okay.
Knock, knock, knock. My name's Lance of Baker, Pioneer Real Estate. Mrs. Jones' home. No, that's the landlord. My name's Sally. Oh. How long have you been renting here, Sally? A couple years. Well, actually, the reason I'm here is because Mrs. Jones is in foreclosure. Are you aware of that? What? Now, are you causing some problems for Mrs. Jones potentially? Is this information a public record? Absolutely. Are you potentially causing Mrs. Jones some problems, but also potentially doing the tenant a favor? Maybe. By the way, what happens when banks file notice of defaults and notice of sales?
Goes to the property.
They post the property. The chances are very, very, very good that the tenant already knows that, okay? Because they came home from work one day and they saw something on the door, and as a matter of fact, before you could even spit the words out, the tenant is probably going to say, "Are you another realtor here looking for Mrs. Jones?" I'm going to say, "Yes, you must be her tenant." I am. Well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to wait for cash for keys. Okay? Fair enough. Do you understand how that process works? Maybe I could help you out with letting you know a little bit how that process. Yeah, I understand. I'm an expert at it. I went to a seminar on how to get cash for keys. Cool. All right. Well, after you get your $22,000 cash for keys checks, that's a joke. Okay. What's your plans? Well, my husband and I thought about buying. Okay. You gotta ask the questions, right? You gotta ask the questions. So, are you going to find buyers out there?
Yes.
Absolutely. And all the more reason, maybe this is why I hate scripts. Maybe the conversation goes differently. You know, you don't know if it's a landlord or tenant. Maybe the lady's pretending she's a tenant. So I always like to start the conversation with a factual statement. I am in the neighborhood today because I just looked at a brand new listing across the street or around the block. Okay? Which is normally how I like to start these. Number one, it's good for me to know. And number two, now I have something to talk about. Knock, knock, knock. Mrs. Whoever you are. My name's Lance with Baker, Pioneer Real Estate. I was in the neighborhood. I just looked at 123 Main Street. It just came on the market yesterday. It's 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. Very similar to this. It's got a pool. It's listed for $195,000. You know anybody you might want to buy or sell? Well, I don't know about that, but, you know, I'm a tenant here. And what do you know about this cash for keys thing? Because this owner's screwing me. I've been paying my rent and they ain't paying. Anyway, you let the conversation go where the conversation goes. Okay? I would venture a guess that you will probably, if you do this type of prospecting consistently, probably 20% of the leads that will come out of this will be buyer leads. Okay? Which, by the way, we're talking about prospecting for notice of defaults. And by the way, the script is just the same if you're doing a notice for sale. What's the difference, generally, what's the difference between the A and the P? Time. How much time do we have to sell this house? Now again, the whole real estate world has been turned on its head as far as these timelines. These timelines used to be cut and dry. Notice of sale, notice of default, notice of sale, bam! Okay? Now the reality is, notice of sale, notice of default, notice of sale, postponement, start over. Notice of default, notice of sale, postponement. Okay? So it's really difficult to with any certainty say your property is going to go to sale on February, which by the way, you don't want to do that. You do not want to stand in front of a client. So by the way, you're losing your property to foreclosure on February 6th. Do you know that for a fact? No, you don't know that. Just because this says the sale date is February 6th, that doesn't mean the sale date is February 6th. In reality, what are the chances of that sale being postponed?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty damn good. Matter of fact, right now, I'd say it's probably a 90% chance that that sale is going to be postponed. Do a lot of these people already know that? Of course they do, because they've already been postponed 2 or 3 or 4 times. So, you know, be careful with making blatant statements of fact that aren't necessarily going to be factual. So now I'm knocking on these folks' door, but if I choose to knock on a notice of default or a notice of sale, in theory, it used to be, if you were doing this type of prospecting, you stayed away from the auction properties because they had 21 days. And the train of thought was, that's not enough time. Okay? Let's not go waste our time. Now, today, I don't know. I probably would go knock on those people's door. Okay? Because the chances are pretty good that they're not going to have just 21 days. They may have 6 more months, depending on how the deal was. Or, yeah. There's an email I can't resist. I'll have to show it to you.
Sometimes after they find out, you contact the bank and let them know that there's a short sale, yeah.
They'll give you some time. We're gonna. Hopefully, I can find this email here real quick. It kind of ties into the class. Let's see. I saw this. I might have forwarded this out to everybody. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm in the right spot. Oh man, I don't think it's here. Okay, one more.
How do you like the DS News?
Yeah, by the way, this is DS News. It's free to subscribe. Go to dsnews.com, click subscribe. It's a great newsletter. It comes every day. Actually, I think it comes twice a day. Okay. You know what? I'm not finding it. At any rate, what I was looking for, there was an email from DS News that came out like 2 days ago, and the headline was, current properties in default could take up to 10 years to clear. And all I could do was kind of laugh after I picked myself up off of my chair, or off of the floor, because it didn't say the real estate market could take 10 years to correct or cure. It said current properties in default could take 10 years to cure. And I thought to myself, okay, well, what are we looking at on this map? What are these? What are the A's and the P's? Those are properties that are currently in default. It's going to take 10 years to sell these houses? I mean, seriously. 10 years? So what? I mean, I'm going into default. You know, I'm only half kidding. I mean, if 3 years ago you would have told me it would take 3 years to foreclose on somebody's house, forget about the moral hazard and the right thing to do and I got to pay my bills and all the rest of that. Are you kidding me? There's no way in the world you're going to let somebody stay in a house for 3 years without making a payment.
Used to be.
10 years? I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
My neighbors don't.
So if you take the headline at face value, it's going to take 10 years to take care of these 34 properties up here. Insanity.
After 5 years, don't you get homesteaded?
I guess. Yeah, it takes squatters rights. You get right of, what am I looking for? Who just took the real estate license exam? It's not eminent domain. It's, what is that one where it's not homesteaded, but
No.
adverse possession.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm adverse possession you. Actually, that's pretty interesting. Pay the taxes, squat on the land, I own it.
Oh, yeah.
Better foreclose on me. At any rate, all right. So here I am. Now this is where this is targeted. Now old school door knocking, and believe me, I've done a lot. And I got to tell you, there's nothing wrong with old school door knocking. And old school door knocking used to be, you start on the end of Montalvo Road and you knock on door number 1. Hey, you want anybody else to buy or sell? Nope, thank you. Number 2. You want anybody else to buy or sell? Nope, thank you. And I gotta tell you, I've knocked on thousands of doors completely at random. Is that efficient? No. Does it work? Yeah, if you do it enough, it will work. The beautiful part about this is, you know, if you're prospecting for short sale listings, you know exactly, this is why you have to buy this program. You know exactly what door, we're not just starting here and going down, we're driving, okay? And then we got kind of a nice little jackpot on this street. We can, maybe we'll park the car here, and then we can do 3 doors, and here, and we can do a couple, and while over here we might be able to hit 4 doors and, you know, park the car on the corner or something like that. This is very targeted. Oh, which, by the way, take a look at the Bs as well. Well, wait, those are already bank owned. Well, maybe they're listed, maybe they're not. But look at them. Well, let's take a look at this one, you know. Okay, this property went to sale on November 14th. The bid was $187. Looks like the loans were $230 plus. Okay. Now, if I'm going to knock on, and maybe it's listed, maybe it's not. I want to go look at it. Okay. Then I want to come over here. I don't know what house I clicked on. Let's pretend it was this one. And this house is maybe right next door. You might want to know a little bit about the house next door. Tell them about it. But again, we are prospecting, so we are target prospecting. We pull up onto evening snow, and we see a lady. This is all sorts of products. It's nothing to do with notice of default prospecting. It could be for expireds. It could be for sale by owners. I see a lady out getting her mail. Okay? I think I did this. I think Robin was prospecting with me on. We did this one day. And I say this all the time. Somebody's out watering their grass, or they're walking to the mailbox. Well, park your car, you know, be professional, dress appropriately, have a stack of business cards with you, approach them. Hey, Shirley, I don't know your name, of course, but hey, man, my name's Lance, I'm with Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate. I just looked at this house around the block, yada, 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 yada. You know, and actually I'm over here to talk to your neighbor. You might want to be careful, you don't want to be the neighborhood gossip. You know, what are you going to talk to her for? Well, because she's in foreclosure. Didn't you know she's going to lose her house? Okay. Is it possible that she already knows what's going on with the neighbor? Is it possible she's going to tell me what's going on with the neighbor? Oh, you're another realtor going over there to talk to Susan. I can't wait till they lose their house. Okay? But at any rate, you're going to talk to these people. You're going to prospect with them. Now, you be careful when you do that. My mailbox example. There was a lady getting her mail, and I think I just taught a class like this, and I had said, when you see people out and you happen to run into them in the course of your other prospecting, knocking on this door, then professionally approach them and, you know, get a twofer. Contacted the lady at the mailbox who has a house across the street, and now I get to talk to the lady I actually came to talk to. Knock, knock, knock. Okay? But anyway, we pull up, and we literally pull up, and the mailbox is right there, and I pull my car right to the mailbox, I jump out, and this lady, like, she thought I was, I think, going to kidnap her or something like that, you know? So be careful when you do that, you know? And when we're doing this prospecting, do it during normal hours. Do not go knock on, especially this time of the year. It's perfectly fine in August and July. It's 7 o'clock at night, the sun's still up, kids are still in the neighborhood. That's a fantastic time to go prospecting. People are home from work, great, the sun's up. This time of the year, it's dark, 5:15, 5:30, we do not knock on doors. Quite honestly, you probably don't want to knock on doors even after 4:30. A little twilight, it's kind of got that seedy thing to it, you know. You don't be walking around someone's bushes on the dark porch, just for your own safety. Forget about whether you're going to scare the homeowners. But at any rate, I will tell you though 2 things, getting back to times of the year. Well, of course, we don't prospect in the summertime. Why? Because it's too hot. Right, we can't prospect in the summer, right? Especially not in the afternoon.
It's too hot.
It's too hot.
Yeah.
And you know, we really can't prospect in the wintertime
It's
because
too
it's
cold.
dark and it's too cold. So there's
Doesn't leave
there's
much.
from April 15th to April 16th. That's when we prospect, and then
If it's not.
and then September 1 to September 2, unless it's raining. Other than that, it's either too hot, too cold, too windy, right? My feet hurt, my shoes, you know. We prospect every day. Don't prospect when it's dark. Don't prospect too early. I will tell you that in the summer months, prospecting between 4 and 6 when the sun is still up and you got a couple, 3 hours worth of daylight is fantastic because people are home from work. Your results are through the roof. And to be honest with you, Robin and I did some door knocking on this, and I don't see anybody from Covina in this office. But the last 2 times I did this, I knocked on, I think, 4 or 5 doors with Robin and Eric when we went out. And then I knocked on, I don't know, probably 10 doors when we went out in Covina. And 80% of the people were home. People were home. Okay?
That's why the
One-
house is-
One other house, yeah.
No job.
Unemployment rate in California is 10.5%. Riverside, San Bernardino County, 13.5%, 14%. Again, today is January 6th, 2012, if you're watching this on video. Unemployment rate went down, by the way, today.
Yeah.
The Fed rate, we were at 9.1, we went to 8.9 about a month ago. Today, 8.5,
8.4.
okay? I gotta tell you, is that good news for us?
Yes.
Amen, that's good news for us. You know, we had a meeting a couple, 3 months ago. Chris Thornburg said unemployment's going to go like this, and I was like, are you kidding me? And we talked about it in the sales meeting, and everyone's like, are you kidding me? And we all were suspect. This guy's bright, and you know where he has unemployment going from here for the next 3 years? Down like a bullet, okay? 5 months ago, I thought he was nuts. 5 months ago, unemployment was 9.2, 8.5. He has it by the election. I'm not going to get political, whether you love Obama or hate Obama, I don't care. He has it by the election down in the low 7s.
Wow.
Another at least 1 point drop in unemployment, which is good for us, between now and the November election. Now, if you want to get political about that, you might say, oh, geez, well, I don't want Obama to win, and that could be bad. Well, I don't care. I mean, I don't care about that. That's good for our business. An unemployment rate down below 8 o'clock, 8% is fantastic. We need people to get jobs. It's going to help us with this. But quite honestly, we have a lot of unemployment in the area, which means people are home. They're a prospect. Okay? So I'm cheering for that. I'm cheering for unemployment. I hope Chris Thornburg is absolutely right. I hope we see unemployment drop like a stone. It's nothing but good for our business for forever. Yes.
On the news yesterday, there were a lot of jobs coming into the Inland Empire,
Yep.
which is good news.
It
A lot
is.
of people, yeah.
There is a lot of good economic news out there. I got to tell you. I mean, probably for the first, I mean, I've always had my good news, bad news thing. There is no good news, there is no bad news. It's just news, whatever you want to do with it. Okay, well, maybe I was being cute with the words a little bit, okay? I got to tell you, there's a lot of good news out there.
Yeah.
A lot of good news. And granted, it's wrapped with still a lot of unemployment, a lot of uncertainty, and the real estate market is still challenged. But hey, compared to where we were 6 months ago, or certainly a year ago, I'm feeling pretty good about our real estate market in 2012. I'm feeling very good about it. So, anyway, getting back to this. So, I want to prospect for these guys. Okay? So, basically, the script is the same. You're going to go to the notice of sales or the notice of defaults. You've got your information on here. Let's take a minute, actually, and let's go through this so you kind of get a general idea of where this is at. Okay? This particular property, this is an A, okay, which means it has a notice of sale filed. The sale date is scheduled for 5 days. It's next Wednesday, okay? Published bid is $235,000. It looks like they owe at least $363,000. This gives you a nice little mix right here. It'll tell you what they're upside down. This gives you like a zestimate. Don't always trust the Zillow things. But this one says, according to Foreclosure Radar, this house is worth approximately $276,000. The loans are $363,000. It's $87,000 over encumbered, or 31%. When you're doing your prospecting, what you may choose to do, go back to this list. Matter of fact, you may choose to do this first. Estimated equity. okay? So you may choose, there's 34 properties to look at on this one. You may choose to specifically go to the properties that are either super duper duper over encumbered. In this particular case, according to this, the estimated equity is negative 118%, which means they owe more than twice what the program says it's worth. They owe 200, the system says it's worth 90, okay? Or you may want to go, now this one's even really, this one 258% over encumbered, okay? But you may want to do the ones that are maybe a little skinnier. Let's see if we can, well actually this one says it has equity. According, and again, be careful with this, these numbers aren't always correct. But this particular property on Via Pescadera, according to this, it's worth more than they owe. By 8%, that might actually cover a commission. Hey, okay? So this would be, let's take a look at this actually. So this particular house, they say they owe 257. They say it's worth 278. It has $21,000 in equity. It's going to sale in 32 days. You're on a different mission with these people. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, what are you going to do about this? What do you mean? You're going to lose your house to foreclosure. Why? You're not a short... Now again, that assumes these numbers are correct. You can sell this. Let's sell this. Let's save this house from foreclosure. You may actually even get a couple $1,000s. Probably not, because they owe a bunch of back fees and stuff. But I mean, you're on a mission of mercy. Okay? Why are you doing this to yourself? You have equity. Now let's just see if there's one that has a lot more equity. Normally you don't see a lot of that.
Those that have 258 negative,
Yep.
more than likely there's first, second, thirds, and
Probably.
liens.
Yeah.
Probably. Oh, wonderful thought. Let's grab one of those really big ones. There was a $200 or 200% one. Where's
Right
that?
there.
Here it is. Let's take a look at this. Okay, what do we got here? Come on, give it to me. All right, now we want to take a look at loans.
Not good.
Okay, we got a first. Now again, I'm questioning this immediately. I'm immediately questioning this. This is probably wrong, but it says there's a first trustee for $426,000, and it says there's a second trustee for $465,000. Is there a first and a second? Probably not. This is more than likely a refi. Okay. Well, let's pretend for a moment that this says there's a first for 426, and there's a second for 75. That would be certainly normal. They got the pool and they did all the landscaping, and maybe it said there's a third for whatever. Okay. Now, in the scheme of things, I am prospecting, and I am. Let's face it, we're prospecting for sellable short sales. Okay. Now, what? This is common sense, but I'll ask the question anyway. Is it easier to sell a property with one loan or with two loans? One. Now, wait a minute, Lance. What if the first and second were both with B of A? Okay. That is easier than if one was with B of A and one was with Chase. But is it easier to do with one loan with B of A or with two loans with B of A? It's easier to do with one. I have one going on right now. I'm selling a property down in La Quinta. The first and second were with B of A. Cool. We go into this. I pull up the profile. Everything's cool. I tell my client, my buyer, okay, buddy, I can't believe you sucked me into represent a friend, a personal friend, family member. But here we go. But good news is they're both with B of A. After 5 months, we get the short sale approved with B of A. First. Then I find out from the listing agent and their coordinator that, oh, well, we don't have the second approved. I'm like, well, they're both with B of A. Come on, man. You're not doing a dual channel here? Well, actually, they're not with both of B of A. B of A sold the second trustee to hold it to somebody else.
After 180 days.
Oops. I'm 5 months into the deal. I got a B of A approval. And by the way, the second trustee on this property is $180,000. Are they just going to roll over and say, give me nothing? You're going to want some money. I got nothing. So at any rate, you might want to take a close look at these. Okay. Now, even if you don't take a close look, and which, by the way, part of this prospecting is also telling people no. you know what, Mrs. Jones, I know we've spent a couple hours together, but I hate to tell you this, but we're not going to be able to work together. What do you mean, Lance? We hit it off. I'm ready to sign. You know, I'm ready to go. Get out your paperwork. I'm going to list my house. Yeah, I know, but I'm telling you, you know, I'm not going to take your listing. Why? Well, because after we talked on the porch the other day, and now I've come up and I've done some research, and I took a look at this. Oh, and then you pulled a couple of second and third trust deeds out. That, you know, one that you've got from somebody that wasn't recorded, another one that's secured by your brother-in-law's friend who's in jail. I've decided that I'm not going to take your listing because the chances of us closing this are slim. And I don't work for slim. Now, I'm not telling you that you can't sell your house. And I'm sure there's a lot of agents out there that would be more than happy to take that listing. And as a matter of fact, I might be able to get you somebody in my own office who would be willing to do that. But I'm not going to do it. Is it okay to turn down someone's business? Do we have an ethical responsibility to take every listing and work with every buyer?
No.
Let's suppose the numbers are perfect. Let's give it a different scenario. You knock on the door, you talk to Mrs. Jones. She's the most wonderful lady on the planet. She says, yes, I'm interested. My husband's going to be home this evening. Come on back and get the information. You go back to the office, you run the numbers. You're like, this is a no-brainer. I can get this thing done. The values are right. Everything's good. My presentation is right on. You show up that night, and Mr. Jones is a jerk. What I like to say, and this, by the way, this doesn't apply just to foreclosure. Use any listing, any buyer, any seller.
Give it a divorce.
And divorce, whatever. I don't know where I heard this. It is part of a script. I kind of made it my own, but I read it in a script somewhere, and I loved it. And the gist of it was, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I know we're on an interview process, and most clients kind of look at this as you're interviewing the agent, and you're absolutely right. I want to thank you for your time, or thank you for allowing me to come in and spending your time with me and giving me the opportunity. And hopefully I've done well on the interview process, and it looks frankly like you might want to list your property with me. However, I'm also interviewing you. I'm changing the script up a little bit. But this is a two-way communication. You're determining whether you want to list your property with me based upon my ability and my competence and my experience and my office and all those sort of things. And quite honestly, I'm determining whether I want to spend my time and bring you on as a client based upon your ability to sell, your pricing strategy, your motivation, and quite honestly, whether or not you and I are going to get along in the next 6 months. Now, I might leave this next part out, but, you know, you're an ass. If I could just work with Mrs. Jones, we'd be great, but dude, you are a jerk. There's no way I want to work with you. Or, maybe a little softer, and this will happen all the time. There is no reason in the world why you shouldn't take the listing. They love you. They are ready to sign. They are ready to sell at a proper price. They are ready to do everything. However, their expectations and their demands on you are completely out of line. I am telling you, you need, now, there's a lot of new agents, not all of you, but there's several new agents here in this room. There's several new agents probably watching this video. When you have, this is one of the marks in your, this will be a milestone in your career. And trust me, when you do this, you will get back in your car and you will remember this moment and you will say, that felt really good, okay? And the milestone is walking away from a customer who wants to list with you or buy a house from you. Because what happens, reality is most new people in the business would never do that because they're so desperate. Anybody that's willing to sign a contract, they will sign a contract. If you have a seller who says, I require that you call me every day between 1 p.m. and 1:15 at this cell number, and I require a 3-page detailed email every Thursday and Sunday, and I require open houses every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. with balloons and jumpers and pony rides and popcorn machines. And I require aerial photos of my property. Okay, and I require, and I require, and I require, and I require. And at some point, you may say, oh, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. And then you get to,
Hold it.
Right. And then you guys say, wow, this is really unfortunate because it appears as though you're ready to list with me, but I'm not prepared to list with you. I cannot meet your expectations. There's no way I can meet your expectations.
And they will keep calling you.
Oh, they will. They will. And as soon as you say, oh, which by the way, that's another thing, you know, again, we're kind of a little all over the place as far as prospecting is concerned. But if you tell the client you will do something, you better do it. Yes, it's a reasonable request. The client has said, Lance, if you list with me, can you hold my house? You know, and that's supposed they're not demanding. These clients can be even worse. Hey Lance, you know, you think you could hold my house open, you know, a couple times a month? And the way you hear that question is kind of like, well, they don't really care one way or the other. Or, hey Lance, you think you could, you know, maybe just put an ad in the newspaper, maybe, you know, once, you know, for $100 or something like that. You know, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. Oh yeah, sure, I'll hold an open house or, you know, whatever. Well, guess what happens the first time you don't hold that open house? That nice passive client who almost sounded like they could care less whether you held an open house, they now own you. They absolutely own you. Who's had the client like that? I cannot tell you how many clients I've had like that. It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
A terrible, terrible feeling to have a client that feels like, what? Are you kidding me? Where's my time clock? Let me come on over here and punch in to go to work for you every day. Okay? Anyway, it's awful. Okay, so getting back here on the foreclosure radar, so we're going to have another 15 minutes. We're going to wrap this up. Okay, there's a lot of things you can do with the foreclosure radar site. And I'm going to jump away from the notice of defaults and notice of sales. Daily, who's been on here in this room? Who's been on the site before? Okay, one of you. Okay, they have a daily auction schedule. This should be interesting. It's kind of, you know, tie in. And again, if you get your 3-day trial, and if you need, everybody in this room needs this program. I'm just telling you, you need it. Okay, this is today's daily auction schedule for Riverside County. Okay, and let's see what happens here. It's going to give us a map, and this is going to populate with a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, today, got a 589 properties were scheduled to go down. You can already tell there's a little mistake. Foreclosure radar is pretty darn accurate, but there's human error involved in here. Is this Riverside County? Okay, so we got something up in the Bay Area somehow ended up in Riverside County. So we got a little mistake there.
Maybe the owner.
In theory, they're supposed to, you know, factor in for that. Let's just keep on zooming in here. And let's just kind of get close to home here real fast. Let's kind of see if we can get close to Marina Valley. Yep, there we are. Okay, so here's kind of us. Okay, so here's a good chunk of Marina Valley. Our office is what the fuck? Kidding. We're tenants, by the way. We don't own the building. So wouldn't that be funny? Oh, geez, we gotta get out tomorrow. Oh God, that's hilarious. Okay, so anyway, this is today's auction schedule. Okay. Now, there's 589 properties listed on this auction schedule. Now again, you've noticed there's a couple of new things that have appeared up here. Number one, we've got a C and we've got a 3. The C's are for canceled, and the 3 means the property was sold to a third party. The B's mean the property went to sale, and the A's, these properties were supposed to go to sale when? Today. So this is why our market is so crazy. Let's go to the list. And this is, which by the way, if you haven't done this, great way to prospect. We're gonna take our notice of sale and notice of default hat, knocking on doors. If you had gone to the courthouse in Corona on West 6th Street, who's been there? Okay. Have you been there for foreclosure purposes? Or? Okay, perfect. This morning at 9 o'clock, they had a couple of properties, one in Nuevo, one in Marina Valley. And it was postponed. It says original. I don't know what that means. But that particular sale was postponed. I'm gonna slide this over just a little bit. Okay, well, before we start looking at the specifics, this is the postponed column. Anything that's listed in here means the property did not go to sale today. Bankruptcy, mutual agreement. I've always wondered what that means. Maybe they're doing a loan mod, they're trying to do something. Beneficiary requested, that's the bank, okay?
What if they're already
Bankruptcy.
in a short sale already, maybe they're, you know.
Possibly, that could be your mutual
Yeah.
agreement, whatever it happens to be. But when I scroll through here, look at all of these that are postponed.
Mhm.
I like the unknown.
No, yeah, well, why not? That's the market, okay?
Just
So-
don't like it.
So when you see these cancels, look, well, again, let's go back up here.
See his cans?
And they don't even have a new date, so when they don't have a new date, they have to start
A
all
lot
over
of them
again
are
with the
starting over
NOD.
again. They're
and-
starting over again,
Wow.
absolutely. Now, but this is the deal, let's go back to the Corona Courthouse. Okay, we still have two that were active, so in other words, I don't know what happened to these yet. Maybe they're still figuring out, did this go to sale, did he cancel it to third party? They don't, but this is the same Corona Courthouse, this is the 9 a.m. session. Now look at all the Cs, as I scroll down here. Look at all those Cs, cancel, 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 cancel,
Yeah.
cancel, cancel, cancel.
Look at the company.
Okay, you want to know why we have a shadow inventory problem? This is part of your shadow inventory problem. Now here's the Riverside Courthouse, which by the way, if you guys haven't done this, you need to. Riverside Courthouse has subcontracted with auction.com, and they don't do it at every, I think they do it twice a month or something like that. They actually do the courthouse, the traditional courthouse steps sales, which if you've never been to, take a bag of popcorn and a Diet Coke and just check it out,
And
okay?
an umbrella.
It's quite a, yeah, an umbrella, you know, for the sun or the rain, or both, okay? But it is quite an experience, okay? It's even more so an experience. It used to be, back in the day, back in the 90s, I had a client with GE Capital, and GE Capital required, they would give us pre-foreclosure assignments, okay? Which meant the property had not gone to foreclosure yet, but it was scheduled. We normally would get them about 4 or 5 days before the scheduled sale date. And our duty as the listing agent to be was we had to go to the courthouse. And the reason we had to go to the courthouse is we were waiting because our property was scheduled to go at the Main Street Courthouse at 3:30, and we were, you know, property number whatever. And we were physically there to see if the property was purchased by a third party, which by the way, let's find some threes. All of these A's, we still don't know what's going on here. I'm looking for a 3. Most of these are all going to show up canceled or, as it says over there, postponed. Now the postponed, by the way, matter of fact, let's see if we can find one really quick. Because all of these have been basically postponed. Ah, okay. So these were scheduled to go today, postponed 30 to 45 days out.
Okay, give them time.
So this could be a short sale situation, this could be somebody says, please just give me another 30 days, I'm working on a loan mod. So these, they're not starting over again, they're not canceled. These, and I don't know, I should know this off the top of my head. I think you're allowed to postpone these things a couple, 3 times, up to, I think, it's within 6 months or something like that. If you continue to post, I see some heads nodding up and down.
Yeah.
Anyway, after you've postponed it to a certain time, then you have to start all over again. But anyway, these have all been postponed, and most all of them, this one's only been kicked out for 6 days, but most of them have been kicked out for a month or 45 days. Okay, so let's go back to the,
That's a lot of property.
well, this, yeah, it's a lot of, this is just today, guys. This is just today. I'm gonna show you something here. Okay, now these, what is the 3?
Third party.
Sold to third party. Somebody bought this at the courthouse steps. I was going to tell my story. We'd have to go with GE Capital, have to sit there and wait. It was hilarious. I'm talking between 1993 and 1999. I've spent at least 2 days a week at the courthouse steps waiting for it. It was hilarious. First time I got there, I had no idea what to expect. There is an absolutely insane man standing there like this, all by himself, standing out in the courthouse steps, by the way, guys. That's where they say that for a reason. They stand out in front of the courthouse. And he reads, loan number 12345, Quality Loan Service Corporation, property address 51925, trustee date, dated, da-da-da-da-da-da, loan amount, and the amount of blah, 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 da-da-da-da-da, read the legal disclaimer. He paused. Any bidders? There was nobody in front of him. Okay? Nobody there. I'd be standing, I even said, I'm here for the courthouse thing. I'm talking to a cop or something like that. He's like that crazy guy over there talking to the tree. You know? That's how it is. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Now, is that how it is today?
No.
What do you got down there? A couple, 300 people?
A lot of
Yeah.
people.
Got a lot of people. Who are those people?
Investors.
Investors. Investors with what?
Money.
If I wanted to buy this property, let's just pretend this one took $150,000 to sell. How much money do I have to have in my pocket to buy that property at the sale?
150,000.
In the form of cashier's checks. There's millions of dollars sitting there at the courthouse steps in increments of, $100,000 cashier's checks, $20,000 cashier's check, $10,000 cashier's check, $5,000 cashier's checks, $1,000 cashier's checks, $500 cash. You've got guys literally with 20 different cashier's checks in their pocket, totaling maybe $200,000 or whatever they're looking to buy. Okay? These people have money, they are buyers, and they are what? They are your clients. Okay? So instead of knocking on their door, you knock on their umbrella. Right? Robin talks about the umbrella because the professionals are down there and they sit in their chairs. The guy from Greg Norris is in the paper, he's sitting there in his chair, he's got his umbrella, he's got his laptop, he's waiting for his property. Yep. Yep. Okay? And so you knock on Greg Norris's umbrella. Hey Greg, Lance Martin, Coldwell Banker Pioneer Real Estate. Looks like you just bought yourself a house. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to flip it. I'm going to rehab it and hold. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Do these people work with real estate agents?
Some of them.
Several.
Of course they do. And even the ones that
Some
say
of
they...
them are.
And even the ones that say they don't, they do.
You do.
Just not you. Because you don't have a relationship with them yet. Right? But you look at someone like Greg Norris at the Norris Group, yes.
It's still showing postponed on those threes though, right?
What's that?
It's still showing postponed on a lot of those threes.
It may, but they were, what's the sale date set? Have the sale dates changed? Nope, they all went to sale though. These all went to, that might have been postponed previously, but
Okay.
the sale date is today, and it has the number 3 over there, they're sold.
Okay, and it's showing the winning bid too.
Oh, when you bid, okay. But this is the deal, when you're prospecting with this, for these type of guys, these are just like anybody else. This is kind of like farming. This is kind of like this lady, Mrs. Jones. Let's suppose Mrs. Jones has a house that's sellable and you knocked on her door and she wasn't nice, but she wasn't mean. You have to make a decision. When you get back into your car, it's still up. My decision is, do I take Mrs. Jones and do I type her in and do I make her one of my 51,000 prospects? If I do, then I put her in. Kathy Jones, 123 Lawless Street, knocked on her door. She was a little bit cold, didn't quite sound interested, but I like the house. I think I can sell this. It's in a good neighborhood. I'm going to follow up with her tomorrow. I'm going to follow up with her on Sunday. I'm going to give her another shot. Okay? Now the next time I knock on her door, it's going to be different. Hey, Mrs. Jones, Lance Martin again. I was here on Thursday. I'm back. Now maybe I have something different. I've got this package here for you. This is everything you need to know about how a short sale process works. I know you said you weren't really interested, but I'll tell you what. Why don't you take a look at that, read it over, no obligation. All my information's in there, call me. Okay? I told you I wasn't interested, I know. And I put a note, Now I went by Mrs. Jones' second trip. I dropped off my short sale package for her. And actually this time she actually did seem a little upset with me. Okay, now I need to make a decision. Is my decision to stop contacting Mrs. Jones, or is my decision to now go back for the third bite at the apple? I don't know. But let's suppose my decision is to go back for the third time. So now maybe I wait a week, or I wait 2 weeks, or I go back to this data, and let's just pretend that this property didn't go to sale, and let's pretend that the sale date was, a month from now. So now I wait 2 weeks. I get closer to that date. What's happened by the time I got to her in 2 weeks from now? more phone calls from the bank, more nasty letters, more stress. Hey, Mrs. Jones, it's Lance again. You seemed a little upset after I dropped off the short sale package, but, you know, I wanted to give you an article on, you know, the effects of a foreclosure and a short sale on your credit, and, you know, there's some information on here about how long it will take you to reestablish your credit and buy another house. I don't know, I'm just making this stuff up off the top of my head, okay? You come up with something, you come up with what you decide who you want to put into your database, and you decide who you don't want to put in your database, and then you move on. But if you put them in your database, then you follow up on them. Just like our girl, Kathy Jones, right? Amber, now again, you can say this is great prospecting or crappy prospecting. I love it. I'm going to pin a gold star on Amber. Amber talked to this gal in November, and then again sent her a mailing in November, and says, I'm going to call her back in 6 months. I love that, okay? Because if you bothered to call her, bothered to send her an email, and never said I'm going to call her again, what's the point? What is the point in even calling her in the first place if I'm not going to follow up with her again down the road? Anyway, getting back to this, getting back to these default numbers, go back to close. You should be prospecting on the courthouse steps. Talk to these investors. You have to do it more than once. I mentioned Greg Norris's name a couple of times. Who's familiar with the Norris Group?
Yeah.
Everybody's hand goes up. Okay, you should be familiar with it for at least 2 reasons. The number 1 reason you should be familiar with it is, where do the sign calls go on the Norris Group listings?
Lead router.
Okay. What? The Norris Group, they're a huge investment club, they're a hard money lender. Every property that they buy and that they turn around and rehab and stick a sign in the yard to flip, when a buyer drives up to that property and calls that number, who answers the phone? The call center. And you guys get those leads. 100% of their sign calls come to our office. How did that happen? Oh, I'll tell you how it happened. One day, I just went over and I said, Greg, give me all your listings. He said no, and I said, okay, never mind. And I walked away. And the next thing, he called me back and said, yeah, here's all my listings. Didn't quite work that way. Over about 5 years, we developed a relationship which started in various places and in multiple meetings at the courthouse steps, and property management, and with his dad, and with seminars, and with this, and with that. And then over a period of time, I finally just asked the question, dude, what are you doing with all of those calls you get? Because they're not a real estate company. They're an investment company. They don't have real estate agents in their company. But they're a broker, and they sell their own stuff. He's like, dude, I don't know, man, I got a problem, man. I got these buyers are bugging me. I'm like, I bet they are. Let me take that problem off your hands. That's a 5-year relationship. For the last 3 years, 100% of his sign calls come into this office and go directly to you guys. Okay? Now, how cool would that have been if you had cut me out of that loop? Are there other Norris Group type people sitting down there at the courthouse steps, buying and selling properties all day? Well, if you're down there, and you're down there on a regular basis, and you see, and by the way, we are salespeople, folks. If you find it awkward and uncomfortable to go down a line of people and say, hey, here's my card if you want to sell any of these houses. Thought about property management, by the way. You know, this is what I do. If that's not in your character, you might want to reevaluate the business that you're in. Oh, come on, that's very unprofessional. I am a professional real estate salesperson. That sounds kind of, next you're going to ask me to put flyers on people's windows of their car? Yes, I am. I made a pile of money with 8.5 by 11 photocopies of a little baby's head saying, you want to buy a house? And I passed them out all over the place. It was as tacky as anything you'd ever seen in your life. Okay? We're salespeople. Now this is the challenge. If you're going to go do that, if you're going to go, where's the courthouse step? Okay, a couple of you said, yes, I raised my hands when I went to the courthouse steps. Okay, here again is, by the way, there's several different courthouses in Riverside County. For the most part, you're going to go to Corona and Riverside. That's the 2 biggies. Okay? But who went more than once, twice, 10 times? Ooh, what are you doing down there? You prospecting for investors?
Observing, watching. There's
Observing.
investors that also do the same thing.
How long have you got your real estate license?
A few years, maybe 2, 3 years.
Okay, you ever passed out a card and so you want to sell these things?
There was actually, I started reverse.
Okay.
There was an investor that's all he does. He has leads and banks call him and homes say, hey, I got coming on board, and he has a team he dispatches. They go out and scout it and they make bids and buy them
Right.
there on the spot. Also other people too, hey, I'm losing my house. They approach an investor, can you buy my house?
Right.
And they did.
But what are you doing there?
Watching, observing, behavior.
Okay. As a realtor though?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, well that's great, but I would suggest stop observing. You've got it figured out.
Right.
Start closing.
Yeah.
Okay?
It was an interesting experience. Yeah.
I'm with you, and I get that.
Yeah.
But, and I believe me, I'm glad you're here, and welcome to the club. But that is the equivalent of, they're not here. Get out of here. Okay? I was at the doorstep, I observed a door, I knocked on it, and I left. Okay? Check it out. Go there 1, 2, 3, 5 times. Get comfortable with it, understand what it is. And then say, it's not, guys, these people are not any smarter than you. Okay? We are not curing cancer here. This is simple. We're buying and selling real estate. Don't be intimidated by them because I just told you that all of them have $200,000 in cashier's checks on their pocket. Most of them, it's not their money. Okay? Don't worry about it. Okay? Ask them the question. Wow, look at that. You just bought Longfellow. What are you going to do with it, Martin?
Sell it. Fix it.
You need someone to help you with that? How easy was that? I just so happen to have a listing agreement pre-filled out for Longfellow at the proper value. Okay? You know, and another thing, from an observation standpoint, become one of them. Okay? Take your laptop, take your tablet, get yourself a chair. Robin, bring your umbrella. If you're going to observe, why don't you observe for a little bit? You know, I'm now one of you. Okay? And now I've gone every day, or 2 or 3 times a week for maybe a month. You know the players, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Which
it's
is
like,
why.
It's like a football field. They're like this and like this. And
Yep.
to see what they're doing.
Which is, but that's part of the reason. I didn't mean to tease you earlier, but that's part of the reason you're observing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who are the players?
Mhm.
Who's there?
It's a tight knit group.
You know, and then another thing which is interesting. I accidentally went to one of these about a month ago. I was at a conference at Raincross Square, an economic summit, and I didn't even know this. I walk out and it says the auction.com thing, and it has arrow to the left. I'm like, oh, they must be having an RADC auction, auction.com. So I walked over there and I'm like, oh, there's 100 people in the room, and they're doing the thing. And I'm like, oh, this is a little different than the ones I've seen. What the heck's going on? And who do I see over there? Our buddy Greg Norris. So he comes over, Greg, what the hell is this? He said, what do you mean, what is this? I felt like an idiot. He said, what do you mean? This has been doing this for 6 months now. What do you mean? Not every auction sale is at the courthouse steps. I think it's every, like the last week of the month, or I don't know what it is, but they do so many a month. So I'm in there, I'm observing, I'm learning, I'm watching. But then one of the things that I found interesting, and I really wasn't, and by the way, the pros there, they know, I mean, they don't know every property because they're not investigating every property, but the properties that they're investigating, they know cold. I'm sitting there talking with Greg. We're watching a property. I could tell he's interested in it, and I'm probably distracting him a little bit. Somebody bids it, I don't know what it sold for, $150,000. And he's just like, I'm like, what? He says, I can't believe it. I'm like, what do you mean? The property shouldn't have sold for more than 105. And I'm like, okay. So then you kind of look over and figure out who bought that, and you determine, well, is that somebody that I want to work with? Do I want to work with somebody who's going to pay 30% more for one of these properties than it's worth? And the answer very well may be yes. Those may be exactly the people I want to work with, because maybe some of the hardcore, got to get a great deal, super investors are going to be more difficult. But anyway, you got to engage. You got to get down here. You got to engage in these things. There was one other thing I wanted. I'm running a little bit late. There was one other thing I wanted to review on this, and it's totally escaping me. So let's just, if you can take a couple of questions, if there are any, that'll give me a chance to remember what I had to say. Otherwise, we're gonna call it call it a class. Anybody? And going once?
Can you just go in there and just kind of look around, just kind of see what, is that part of the 3-day trial?
Absolutely. I believe there's no restrictions on the 3, which by the way, yeah, there's no restrictions. Oh, I know, this is what I wanted to show you.
There you
You can do the entire program, okay, during that first 3 days. Just go on, and again, don't, if you're gonna get it, and you don't plan on working this weekend, don't get your trial tonight, okay?
Right.
Set it up, get it planned out. Now the problem is you're gonna be learning on the cuff. This is an easy program to figure out. There's nothing complicated about this program. But this is what I wanted to show you. And again, this may make some of you sick, and it may make some of you happy. It actually makes me both. We're going to do a radius search, very similar to what we did earlier, except we're going to do a radius search on this office. 231. What's our address here?
236.
23631.
23631. There we go. SUNNYMEAD. Doesn't really, the boulevards, avenues, streets are not all that important for this program. And actually the program assumes you're in California because I'm on California. Okay, are you ready for this? We're going to do a 20-mile radius of this office. Would most of you agree that a property listed within a 20-mile radius of this building is something that you could service?
Let's do it.
Yes.
I would hope that you would agree. Okay.
Too many.
Okay, well, it just says it's too many to display on the page. This is the number we're looking for. 14,783 properties. Notice of sale, notice of default, or bank owned. Now, I want to tighten that up a little bit. I own, same exact search, 20-mile radius of this building. I'm getting rid of the, oh, by the way, if you forget the definitions, notice of default is the P, pre-foreclosure. Notice of sale is the A, the auction, or
Okay.
notice of trustee sale. Okay, now I'm only searching auction properties. Same search, it's going to switch from 14,783 to, okay, now, what this says, assuming we were in a normal real estate environment, let me rephrase it, assuming we were in a normal foreclosure environment, and I will define that as something prior to September of 2008, no moratoriums, no modifications, no robo-signing scandals. What would happen to these 6,030 properties in the next 21 days?
So,
Sold.
Every single one of those properties would go to sale, and we would have the dreaded tsunami, right? Which is why we can't have that, because that would be a total, and I don't believe this, but the logic is if we allowed that to happen, the world would come to, we would have the Mayan scenario. The world would end on, before the end of the year. So because of that, this has become part of the shadow inventory, because we all know that of these 6,030 properties that are scheduled to go to sale between, and by the way, some of these are scheduled to go to sale when? Tomorrow. And some the next day, some the next day, but none of these are scheduled to go to sale more. Well, actually, that's probably not true because there's some postponements in there. So there could be some that have been postponed for a month. But in theory, these are all within the 21-day window, right? So there's 6,030 properties. I'm going to run the same search. I'm going to try to run the same search. Stop it. I'm going to run our Santa Ana office. Let me know that address on there. I should know that, shouldn't I?
Another one at Claremont. but
I
not
got
Santa Ana.
one of my cards on. Hold on a second.
Bring this one while you're at it. I don't have one of those cards, do you? I said, bring this one while you're at it. You brought us some cards, right?
Oh, you need some?
Yeah.
You need some of my cards? Okay, I've got, believe me, I got more than one. Okay, Santa Ana office. Orange County market is exempt from the bad real estate market, right? They're not affected. This is an Inland Empire problem, correct? Yep, there's nothing, I mean, they have all sorts of money and nicer cars than we do, and we're a bunch of Inland Empire trash, and
Spell MacArthur wrong.
Troglodytes, right?
we're troglodytes. Is that what we are? What did I forget my H? I need some glasses.
There it goes.
Here's mine.
You won't be
Okay.
both.
20-mile radius. still there. And let me change my property. Oops, my foreclosure. Let's do all of them first. Let's take them all. Now, what was our number for the 20-mile search from our office? It was about 14,000 and change?
14,000, yeah.
What are we gonna be here, more or less?
16.
A lot more.
16,000 more,
Wow.
okay? If I go back and I say, okay, well, let's compare just the ones that are going to sale. Same search, is it gonna be more or less than the 6,000, you think?
Same.
Well, no, give it a minute. It's thinking. There's 7,700 properties that are scheduled to go to sale in Orange County within the next 21 days. Now, if we look at the pre-foreclosure ones, I didn't do this for a 20-mile radius. Let's just look at the ones that are pre-foreclosure. So what was that number? 70 what? Okay, 7,700 notice of sale. The total number is what? 17,000?
Yeah.
Okay, and 6,300. So about 13,000 of the 17,000 are in the pipeline. Now this is the crazy part. This is another thing that drives me crazy. Okay, now we will have to, well, let's do the, now if anybody was a real quick mathematician, or at least could add and subtract, the difference between the 6,000 and the 7,000 and the 17,000 is the bank owns, which is 2,000. It doesn't sound right. Sounds like we missed something there. But anyway, according to this, there's only 2,066 properties that are bank owned within a 20-mile radius of the Santa Ana office. How many properties are on the market out of the 2,000? Are there 2,000 properties on the market to buy right now in Orange County within a 20-mile radius that are bank owned?
That's the shadow.
Well, it's part of the shadow, because the notice of defaults and notice of sale are also the shadow. This is why I was looking, there's another headline that almost made me want to throw up. I didn't email it to you guys. Is anybody here subscribing to DS News?
Yeah, will be.
Did you
I'm
get
gonna start
the
after today.
Did you get the email? Did you get the email yesterday about Bernanke's comment, Fed Chairman Bernanke?
I haven't opened it.
That's the DS magazine out in the lobby, right?
What do you say?
I was reading that. It's got a lot of good
Well, yeah,
information.
but the magazine's that's dated.
No, it's like December, so it's not
Like I
old.
said, it's dated.
It's like the end of the year.
What's it burning?
I'm gonna tell you. Give me just a minute. See if I can find the headline.
But you know, Lance, I went to a training, and I was told a lot of these people have no choice but to let it go because they were part of predatory lending and they lied.
Right.
And when they have to sign that, what is it? What's the number? When you join the short sale, the IRS form. You
Okay.
have to be careful to protect your clients, not to just leave it open. Give a specific date and time as up to only 2 years. Other than that, by signing a form, they can go all the way back. And if they lied to get the property, they were
Right.
part of fraudulent lending.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why we have so much of this too. They have to let them go.
I'm with you 100%. But when you say they have to let them go, you're talking about the client has to let them go?
The seller has to let it go all the way to
Right,
bank
because-
foreclosure because other than
Because
that,
they lied to get the
they
loan.
lied to get the loan in
Right.
the first place.
Right.
So
No,
yeah.
I think we're
I went to
agreeing.
I went to a training and it just, he said, why are there so many? This is horrible. Well,
Well, it's,
half of them going to jail if they don't.
well, I'm
Yeah,
not
well-
asking why there's so many. It's so many because our well, this is another story, but I'll tell you why there's so many, at least my opinion of why there's so many. I'm looking for this email. And let me just try one more, see if this is it. No, that's it. Anyway, the email I wanted to show you says, Fed Chairman Bernanke encourages Fannie and Freddie to enter the rental programs for foreclosures. Who sat through my meeting 2 months ago where my head almost exploded because we were talking about Fannie and Freddie
Yeah.
foreclosing on properties, bulk selling them, and then putting them in a rental program for 5 years. Okay? Well, guess what they're talking about doing? Exactly what I just said. Okay? Now, that's personally, I think that's the stupidest thing in the world. Okay? For selfish reasons, number one, if they're renting them, we can't sell them. No listings, no selling, no escrow, no loans, no title insurance, no termite inspections, no home inspectors, none of that stuff. Okay? I just think it's a bad policy, generally speaking. But as far as why we have so many of these, well, we got unemployment problems. We've had the easiest explanation for me, a real life example. Who's familiar with the Dream Street track? Which, by the way, we're going to be, as soon as I finish this story, we're done. Okay. Dream Street track. Marilyn, you've been in Marina Valley for a long enough time. Right up the street, just north of the 60 freeway. That's frankly why I'm here. My brother and sister-in-law moved out to Marina Valley 25 years ago. They bought a house on Honey Hollow in Dream Street. We came out from the Lakewood Long Beach area, fell in love with the track, fell in love with Marina Valley, and my wife and I, my mom and dad, my in-laws, we moved out here because of the Dream Street track. Okay? Or at least because of my brother and sister-in-law moving in. Anyway, 2000 and let's call it 4. What happened to property values in Marina Valley between 2003, 2004, and 2006?
Shot up.
Double, triple?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's use this one specific house as an example. I get a phone call, past client, Lance, can you just come over and sell my house? Which, by the way, that's what this prospecting stuff is all about. You want to be able to stop. My name's Lance Martin, you want to buy or sell your house? Ring, 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 my name's Lance Martin, you want to buy or sell your house? What you want to have happen is you want them to call you.
Oh, you.
And say, Lance, it's me. Would you please come over here and sell my house? Let me check my schedule. See if I can fit you in. That's really what this is all about. You prospect long enough, you build up a database that has 50,000 people in it. To be honest with you, you change your prospecting a lot. That's full disclosure. 8 hours a day, driving around, winter, summer, I don't care, knocking on people's doors. That's work, guys. Try to make it as fun as you can, but let's not kid ourselves. That's work, and it's not necessarily fun. But you want to make $100,000, $200,000 selling real estate? Where did it say it was going to be easy and going to be fun? Okay. But at any rate, you want to get a database where you got 50,000 people in your database, and then they're calling you. Okay. At any rate, what was I going to say? I was going to talk about. I was going to say something brilliant. I totally lost my train of thought.
Dream Street.
Dream Street. Lance, will you sell my house? Yes. I come on up, and which was a lot of money at the time. I don't know exactly when this was. Probably 2004-ish. 2000. Anyway, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yep. What's it worth? It's worth about $190,000. We listed for $195. It's sold for $190. Bam, done. Okay. I get a phone call 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, from a lady who was referred from a client in there. Hey, this is Lance. I saw you sell John house. Or this is Lance. This is Sally. You sold John's house so fast and yada yada yada. I got the same house, same model as him. Me and my husband, we gotta go. Okay, great. I'll be up tomorrow. Going up there. And again, I'm trying to think logically. Well, I just sold your neighbor's house for $190. Well, yeah, I know, but we talked to a couple other realtors, and we saw this and we saw that, and we'd really like to try to get, no, not quite, but we really were hoping we could get with $200,000. And I'm like, well, gosh, that's a 5% increase in property values in like 30 days. I mean, that doesn't happen, but market was hot, buyers were out there. So I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. So I listed for $200,000. Guess what happens? No, I don't sell it for $200,000. I sell it for $210,000. And I sell it for $210,000 is because someone came in and put a loan. I says, okay, well it's worth $200,000, but I tell you, we're going to give you $210,000, and we want the seller to pay $10,000 in closing costs. And I'm like, well, I just sold one for $190. How are you going to get $210,000? And my seller's like, well, I don't give a rip. I mean, if they're going to give me $10,000 more, I don't care if I pay $10,000 in closing costs because it's basically the same net. And I'm like, well, yeah, but we're going to have a problem. I think you're going to appraise. Well, guess what? It appraised. And we sold the house for $210,000. And we closed escrow 45 days after we just closed the one for $190. True story. A month later, who calls me? Another lady from down the street. I saw you sold John's house, and I saw you sold Sally's house, and so you know where this is going, right? Guess what we sold that one for?
$225.
$230 or something. So within a 4-month window, we went from $190 to like $230,000, $240,000 in 4 months. We had like 20% appreciation in 4 months. Now you keep doing that for about 3 years. And then you have a property that frankly was worth, what's a Dream Street property worth, 1,500 square foot house in Dream Street today? 160? I think that's high. 130? Okay. Alright, well, that's probably what we were selling that house for, 130 was probably like 1999, 2000. It took 4 or 5 years, and those were bad times, by the way. I mean, from 1995, or 1993 to 2001,
It was horrible.
it was horrible. That's how I got into the REO business, right?
Yeah.
Doing the REOs, it was terrible.
Because
I'll
the
never
base was
forget.
closing.
Yeah, base was
yeah,
base
that's
real.
right.
No, it wasn't closing.
Well,
It
I
was
tell my times I tell my
That
clients,
was
realigning.
Now
It
it's
didn't
a-
matter.
That's a
Realignment,
reserve
closing.
base.
They could have dropped a bomb on the damn thing.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter.
It did.
All the aerospace business out in Orange County was falling apart. The world was falling apart. We had foreclosures, which was hilarious because as bad as we thought that was, that was a picnic compared to this market the last few years, right?
Yeah.
But at any rate, we're basically selling that house for $130,000. Market starts in 1999. Market starts to recover a little bit in 2000. It actually is starting to get a little bit better in 2001. And then what happens on September 11th?
Terrorist attack.
I'm sitting in my office on Heacock, on Atlantic Circle, September 11th, 2001, World Trade Center, all the rest of the whole world goes crazy. And I gotta tell you, I sat in my office and I was like, oh my God. You know, after the whole shock of, you know, I think everyone's in shock for a week or whatever. But then I started to think about, which was kind of crappy to be honest with you, thinking, gosh man, we were just starting to come out of this real estate market and this is gonna wipe us out. It's gonna be bad for real estate, which turned out to be wrong. Okay? Because if you go back and you take a look at property values, we had a really bad fourth quarter of 2001 and a not so great first quarter of 2002. But generally, what did the real estate market start doing about 6 months after September 11th?
Let it going up.
It started rocking and rolling, and you know what was happening? People were taking their money out of the stock market, and it was safer. It was safer to own land, you know. All
The
right,
military was getting those big bonuses.
all that sort of stuff's going
Sign-on
on.
bonuses.
So we go on a tear from 2002 to 2006, and we go insane. And a property that should be worth 130 goes up. And even in 2003, I can remember going up there when I listed the one for 190, and I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? $190,000. And those houses, everyone know what those houses peaked at? June of 2006?
500.
Not quite. It was
350.
about
400.
$375. $375,000. If you go buy it today, what are you going to buy it for? About $135,000. That represents a 65–70% drop in property values, which is why when I look at this and we say, can we absorb all these foreclosures in a short window of time? I say, of course we can. Like, well, what happens if the market collapses? Oh, you mean like a 70% drop in property values? Yeah, exactly like that. Well, that's what's happened in our market. We've had a 70% drop in property values. Are people still interested in buying properties in our area?
Yeah.
Of course they are.
Can they get a loan?
Well, maybe not. Maybe we got some loan challenges, but there's lots of entry-level stuff. There's lots of investors. There's people out buying houses.
Second homes.
Second homes. I'm going to do one more of these and then I got to frankly get out of here. This is our office in Covina, which by the way, if you guys have never gone out there, it's a beautiful office. The Claremont and Covina office are really nice. Oops. Nice if I know where I was typing it. Okay. And, okay, well, this first search is a 20-mile radius of the Covina office. It's only going to give properties that are in foreclosure. So there's 24, that are already foreclosed on. There's 2,400, okay? I'm not really interested in that. Let's see how many are going to sale in the next 21 days, in theory. Anybody want to take a guess? I'm going to say 9,000.
Is that much out there? I thought that was old money.
8,300.
Close enough.
20-mile radius of Claremont, or excuse me, Covina. Yeah, there's a lot of old money. There's a lot of houses packed in there. Okay, so there's 8,300 properties, and then we'll just do the final one, and we'll call it a night. That are supposed to go, and then an additional so many properties.
Drum roll.
An additional 72. So there's 15,000 properties within a 20-mile radius of our office in Covina that are in default and in theory should go to foreclosure in the next 21 days to 4 or 5 months. Now, put that in perspective. In 1995, anyone want to take a guess at how many properties Fannie Mae foreclosed on in the entire country? In the entire country. Now granted, Fannie Mae is not the whole market.
Still.
1 million.
No.
The whole country.
10,000
10,000. Wow.
in the entire country. And that was considered a milestone. A bad one. But again, granted, Freddie Mac had inventory and everybody else had inventory. But Fannie Mae foreclosed on 10,000 properties in the entire year, in the entire country in 1995.
Wow.
We have about 15,000 within a 20-mile radius. And if you take this 20-mile radius and this 20-mile radius and this 20-mile radius, what do we got? Probably 40,000 properties?
Easy.
Easy. So, with that in mind, not all of these are going to go to foreclosure. The banks are on a mission to do short sales. So what are we going to do? We're going to go out and get them. Okay? Go out and knock on those doors. Now, are they a pain in the butt? Yes. Are they a pain in the butt? Yes. Are they a pain in the butt? Yes. Well, I'm sorry, but that's what we got to deal with right now. So go out and take your piece. Now, I did not, in closing, and I am done, I'll unplug my computer and that'll make me stop. Hit that red button on there. Just point it at the screen, that'll turn that light off. One more. There we go. Now, none of you should make short sale prospecting your 100% focus on your business plan for 2011 or 2012. Okay? I would think, now if you're really good at it and you like it, okay, then I take that back. And if you want to have 100% of your business plan focused on short sale prospecting and short sale listing, and you enjoy it, because do what you enjoy, then go for it. Having said that, balance yourself out, okay? Don't focus 100% of your efforts in this particular area, because this is a tough market. Okay, it's a tough market. It'll make you an old realtor very fast. Okay, you know, getting the listing is one thing. Taking 6-7 months to get it closed, praying for a closing, and then of course, you know, then they want to cut your commission at the end. You know, someone's got to pay for the whatever or this or that. So just be prepared for that. If this is the path you're going to take, it's a tough market to focus on. But you take the short sale listings and you get the buyers that go with them. Which is why if you are going to focus a lot on short sales, I think you need to make at least 50% of your business plan to work with the buyers that result from the sign calls that come from your short sales. Okay? Because quite honestly, you may very well make more money off of your buyer sign calls than you will actually getting that property sold. Which is why location is critical too. You know, don't go knocking on doors on $32,000 condos.
Okay.
Why are we going to do that? You're going to take a short sale? Are you out of your mind? Don't go knocking on doors on $105,000 short sales. Okay? Go get some nice stuff.
Yeah.
Go get the $300,000 sale. Put the sign in the yard of the $300,000 or the $210,000 sale. What happens when people call on that sign? They want what? They want properties in that price range.
Right.
You go get that $50,000 condo short sale, you're going to get $50,000 buyers. You're going to close 30 deals and you're going to make $2,200. Don't do that. All right, guys. All right. I'll see you. I won't see you tomorrow. Monday. You need a card?
Thanks, Lance. Have a nice day.
Are you going to refer me some listings that just came in the market are completely overpriced? What a joke. Oh, look at that. Mrs. Jones finally sold that property. I can't believe it took so long because I thought that one was priced right. Oh, I was wondering what the sales price was on 123 Main Street. I see it's now closed. Let me check that out. Oh, look at that. It was listed for $160 and it sold for $158. Okay? And then you get all the expires. You'll know. You'll automatically know. And you may, let's just pretend, let's take a look at Harwood. This property is, which is very interesting. This property is expired. What was the last thing that they did with the sale, with the list price? They rose it. Now let's just pretend, for illustration's sake, that I know this house inside and out, and I know that this house is going to sell for no more than $52,000. I may choose not to even go knock on their door. Oh, I'm going to waste my time. Okay? The last thing they did is they raised their price. The house wasn't listing, and I know, because I'm the expert, that it's already $40,000 overpriced. What's the point? Okay? Okay, so now let's get back to our expires. This is what I want to do. I want to go to these properties, which is why you geographically you have to plan your day. Okay? If you're going to do this and you're going to say, well, I really like the east end of Moreno Valley, and boy, I like Corona, and you know what? There's this piece of Ontario that I want to deal with. How many properties are you going to see? You're going to spend all day on the road. Okay? So when you're prospecting for this type of client, be tight. Otherwise, you're going to spend all your time driving around. All right? So get it tight, get it narrow, and make sure you know what you're doing. Okay, so very simple. Now again, let's do a little bit of research before we just go knock on our door over here on Harwood. Okay. Okay, so I got a house, I got a $89,000 price. What I'm looking for is the property occupied. Okay? Help me out here.
Owner.
Call first.
Owner? Okay, owner, call first. Now, again, I told you we're not going to spend a lot of time on doing expires. So this is going to be my one and only example. You want to do yourself a favor, okay? Before you just put on a list and start driving around, take a look at the properties. Is it occupied? Is it vacant? Does it make sense to go knock on the door of a vacant expired listing? Who are you going to talk to? Okay? Does it make sense to knock on the door of a tenant occupied expired listing? Probably not. Okay? So do your homework. Make sure you know what you're doing. If it says it's owner occupied, there you go. That's your opportunity. So let's just pretend this one is owner occupied. Knock, knock, knock. Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. My name is Lance Martin. I'm with Global Banker Pioneer Real Estate. And you probably are aware of this already because I'm sure I'm not the first person to knock on your door. And you may have received some phone calls already today, which, by the way, that used to be the preferred method of prospecting expireds, is we used to call them. But a little while back, when the property when it expired, they stripped out the phone numbers for the sellers. I think they shouldn't have done that here, no?
Nope, it's still up there.
Still there.
Well, that's because it probably went back to the bank at the short sale.
Possibly so. There's something strange about the search we did. If we do a real expired listing search, it strips out the contact information for the owner. Just takes it out. If they don't, we don't want you to call them. Okay,
The
fine.
property's only on the market for 90 days.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whatever.
Something's wrong.
The property is expired. It's I don't have the owner's phone number, but again, in the old days we used to call. So I'm here. I'm your neighborhood expert. As a matter of fact, if you are really good and you are really consistent about that, then what you get to do is you get to say, oh, by the way, I don't know if you remember me, but when your property came on the market 90 days ago, I don't know if you recall, but I was the one who called you, and I was up here the first day your property was listed. And remember I told you how nice your pool was? And you asked me if you thought the property was priced right, and I said, good luck. That was my way of politely telling you no. And now I'm back 90 days later, and are you serious about selling your house today? Can I help you sell your house today? Can I offer you a market analysis today? Are you 12? And I do need to pick a city. So let's go back up here and
259.
just do it here. Easier, okay. You can put the city in, or you can put the area. There's our 259 for Moreno Valley. Now, if we want to do multiple cities, that's fine. Now it's telling maybe I've done something wrong because it's telling me I've got no matches. Expired listings last night in
You have
Moreno
to put
Valley.
your city at the top. You don't have a city up there.
Do I have to have a city there?
No, you don't. No.
I don't think I do.
No, your date, I think your date is wrong.
Did I mess my date up? This is why the hot sheet's nice, because once you set the, yeah, my date is right. I have to put the actual, oops, revise. You are correct. I think I have to put in 2012 for my date. Oops, I'm trying that. Actually, it looks like it fixed it for me. 1512, Expired Merino Valley, I got nothing. What am I
How
missing?
about
It's-
1/5/12 with the plus?
Plus sign.
Well, but I wanted everything that
Don't-
expired
don't-
on that day.
Don't put it in that expired date, go up to the top and put it in status date.
Status date.
That's a good idea.
Erase
Yeah,
that
take
one.
that date
Erase
out
that one.
and.
Where?
Status.
Status
Status
date.
date on the right next to list price?
Yeah,
Next
list
to list
price,
price.
status date.
You need to
Status
change
date.
that, you need
Try
to
that.
change that city and see what
Okay.
happens to.
And I think status date is like
Plus-
1 day or 2 days. Put on the question mark, they'll tell you how you do. And-
All right.
But you're gonna need to take.
I don't like this.
Put 1 plus.
Yeah.
Or, right, is that how it is?
Just
Yeah.
You have to
one,
put a plus one, plus
just
on it.
one.
010512.
There you go.
All right. Well, something's wrong because it says we only got 3. I know there's got to be more than 3, but for illustration
No, that's it.
purposes, let's pretend we know what the heck we're doing. Okay. There's something wrong in our search, but okay. So for illustration purposes, I've now ran my hot sheet. My hot sheet has a whole bunch of stuff. Which, by the way, different class. What else does my hot sheet have? Because we asked for what? Active listings. Give me new active listings. All right. So let's just pretend. Let's keep it simple. There's 5 new active listings. Let's pretend there's 5 new pending listings, and let's pretend there's 3 expired listings, and maybe there's 4 solds. So for now, as I'm looking at my expireds, I'm also looking at the actives, because what are we doing? We are prospecting. Okay? So if I have a property that's expired on Harewood Drive in Moreno Valley, and I see an active listing that's close to Harewood Drive in Moreno Valley, I want to be more productive. I want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, okay? And on top of that, when I go, which by the way, what are we going to do to Harewood Drive in Moreno Valley?
Knock on the door.
We're going to go knock on the door. If there happens to be a new listing in that neighborhood or close to that neighborhood, I might want to call them up while I'm there and say, hey, Mr. New Listing, this is Lance Martin with Coldwell Banker. I'm going to be in the neighborhood this afternoon between 2 and 4 o'clock. I see that your property just came on the market last night or today. Would it be okay if I came up and previewed your house? Do you have a buyer? No, I don't. Well, why are you coming by? Because I'm going to be in the neighborhood later today, and I'd like to take a look at all of the new inventory that comes onto the market so I can be better prepared to represent future buyers and so on and so forth. And you know what? I do have a few buyers I'm working with, and maybe this might be the one. Maybe leave that last part out, but whatever. So while I'm in the neighborhood, is there anything wrong with going out and previewing new inventory that comes onto the market? Not only is there nothing wrong with it, you should be doing that. I've been preaching this forever if you've sat in these classes before. You need to know the inventory. You need to know what is happening out there. Especially if the listing that's brand new on the market is anywhere close to the property that you're going to be expiring on, because maybe that will tell you some information. You've got a brand new listing listed for X. You have an expired listing that's maybe listed for X plus. Okay? And if you're not quite the market expert yet, which by the way, if you do this for 6 months every day, you go out and you run your hot sheet, you look at the actives, you look at the pendings, you look at the solds, you look at the expireds, will you quickly become the expert? You will look at your hot sheet, you will just give it a 30-second gaze, and you will know. The 5 new record button. There we go.
Narrow it down.
All right. Okay, gang, we're getting ready to roll. So our class is expired listings, which most of you have never heard of because we haven't had an expired listing in 2 years now. For sale by owners, which there's not a whole heck of a lot of for sale by owners because the market doesn't really demand for sale by owners. So, and then what is more pertinent to today's class, for those of you watching on video, today is January 6th, 2012. If we were videoing this thing back in January of 2005 or 6, was there a big for sale by owner market?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so we would focus a lot potentially on for sale by owners. When we get into a hot for sale by owner market again, we'll refresh this class and we'll do something specifically for sale by owners. So we're going to spend 0 time on for sale by owners today. Expired listings. Are there a lot of expired listings in today's market? Not a whole heck of a lot. If we were doing business in a more normal, traditional market at any time, do you have a fair amount of expired listings? Sure. Are they great resources to prospect? Absolutely. Okay. We don't have a lot of those today, so we're going to spend very little, if no time, talking about expired listings today. Having said that, we are going to spend a little bit of time talking about, I'm looking for a pen. Hold on just a second.
Move that, I think that's true, so I might like that.
Okay, grab one.
Somebody laughing in here from the last
All
one.
right. So anyway, we are going to spend some time talking about expireds, but briefly. Probably going to 5-10 minutes max going through expireds. So what we're going to talk about mostly, which is very, very pertinent today, is prospecting, notice of sales, and notices of default. Now, when the market changes and when we get out of this current cycle of basically foreclosure that we're in, prospecting for notices of sale and notices of default will probably be something that you'll do less focus on, and we'll be refocusing on for sale by owners that are expired and so on and so forth. Now, I lump them together, quite honestly, is because the prospecting, the method of prospecting for all of these is pretty darn similar, okay? If I wanted to prospect for expireds and notice of defaults on the same day, I would probably do very similar things, and the same thing with for sale by owners. So the first thing, and we're going to start with a brief, we're going to start with a brief kind of rundown of expireds. So let me just make myself a note here. And if I was going to search expired listings, is that new, by the way? Back up here just a minute. Matrix and Tempo, when did they put the Tempo up here?
It's always been there.
Always as of when?
I think so.
I've always seen it every time I went online.
That, I don't see it.
That's
I have the other.
No, that's new. They must have just changed something. It used to say, what did that used to say? Whoever knows the answer gets a buck, because it didn't say CRS Tempo.
It wasn't Timbo, it was something else.
It said something else. Okay, well, it did say something else. Okay, well, we're going to go into the matrix, and there's probably better ways to do this. Are you going to join us, Robin?
Yeah.
Well, pull up
I'm looking for a warm spot.
Oh, crud. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Oh, thank you. Capital C?
Nope.
Mercado, there you go, it's Mercado. Okay, I'm in the MLS. Oops, I'm trying to get in the MLS. Are you sure it's not capital?
Nope, it's not capital.
101?
Let me do it.
I already typed in 101. This is Anna, my trusted right-hand assistant.
Hello.
For those of you that don't know Anna.
I was just summoned by Anna.
Oh, I think she's looking for you out in the lobby. Anna has the magic touch.
It was capital.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
It was, we watched it.
Liar. I saw her hit the shift key. Okay, I'm in the MLS. Now, if you are going to be searching expired, this is the deal with any type of, which by the way, this is prospecting. This class is on prospecting. Forget about expireds or for sale by owners or notice of defaults or anything like that. We are prospecting, okay? What am I doing today? I'll give you two choices. I am teaching a class on how to do expireds and for sale by owners or notice of defaults. That's option one, I'm teaching a class. Or option two, I am prospecting for new agents and retention of existing agents. What am I doing today? Am I teaching or am I prospecting?
Prospecting.
I'm prospecting. You've been in the class before. Everything we do is prospecting, okay? When I'm teaching these classes, in your mind, I'm teaching. In my mind, I'm prospecting, doing a little bit of different type of prospecting. If you were a brand new agent looking to get into the business that didn't work here, then I would truly be prospecting. I would say, hey, come on over and sit in our class, it's free. You would think as a student in the class, you would think that you were being taught. You're not being taught, you're being prospect. Now as agents that already, which by the way, if you're watching the video and you don't work at Coldwell Banker, Pioneer Real Estate, Town and Country, or Realty Center, I'm prospecting for you. I want you to see that I'm a good teacher, therefore this might be a good place to work. Now if you're already an agent in the office, what am I doing? Once I've got you, what do I got to do for you? Keep you. Recruiting and retention. So retention is what this is all about, and retention is what? I'm still prospecting. It never changes. So we are prospecting for sale by owners. Now, the key to prospecting is what? You have to be consistent. You do not go out and work expired listings for one day and determine you are a success or a failure at working at expired listings. Okay? Because I guarantee if you go out working expired listings, for sale by owners, and notice of defaults, and you do it for one day, 1 week, or 1 month, and then you stop, your experience will later, you will later describe your experience as unsuccessful. Oh, I tried that, it doesn't work. How long did you try it for? Oh, a little while. How long did you go out and work expired listings? Oh, I did it for 3 days. And I got nothing. Therefore, it doesn't work. Great. If that's what your plan is, stop. There is no point whatsoever in even trying this. You have to have a consistent plan. Oh, and by the way, yes, it would not be a training class by me if we didn't talk about goldmine. With a contact management system, you don't go out and prospect for anything unless you have a contact management system. Because like we talked about, what was the class we did a couple of days ago? We did a class on something. Managing buyers and sellers. Okay? If you want to manage buyers and sellers, you need a system. Okay? This is, we could rename this class, Managing Prospects for sale by owners, expired listings, and whatever. If you're going to go out, how many doors can we knock on today? If we started, let's pretend it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and we wanted to go out and find, let's suppose there was 50 expired listings in a reasonable geographic area within 5 miles of this office. How many of those doors could we knock on today?
All 50.
All 50.
It'd be a long day. It'd be hard. You could do it. You'd be tired. You know, I go out prospecting, I go out for a couple hours, I knock on 10 doors, I'm pooped, man. I feel like I went to Disneyland, for God's sake. Okay? But you could do it. Okay? Now let's suppose you knocked on 50 doors. How many people are you going to talk to? Half? Let's just suppose it's 10. Okay? Are you going to remember their names, their addresses, their phone numbers, their circumstances, what they said, what they did, what they're going to do? Did they tell you to call you back? Are you going to remember that? No. So if you don't have a system, and I don't care what it is, you know gold mine is mine, but if you do not have a system to put those 10 people in, because tomorrow you're going to have 10 more, and then 10 more, because we're going to do this every day, or at least going to do it 2 or 3 days a week. Let's suppose we just do this for 2 days a week for 6 months. Okay, well that's 2 days a week times 4. Okay, that's 8. And then times 6 months. Okay, so what do we got there? We got what, 40? Huh? 48. 42, 48, whatever. I forgot what numbers I put out there. But at any rate, times 10. We now have 500 people. We have 480, we have 500 people. If you don't have a system that says, this is who I talk to, and this is what they want, and this is when they want it, and this is when I'm supposed to call them back, and then don't do any of this. So stop right now unless you have the ability, and I don't care if it's on the computer. Actually, I do care if it's on the computer. My personal opinion is if you do not have a computerized contact management system, you will fail. You will fail in this business. And I see a lot of people here. We had someone with, happy Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Yes. We got our tablet user over here. If you don't have some sort of computerized system to manage your contacts, you will fail. Okay? Or you'll close 2 deals a year. which for many of us is failure, because 2 deals a year is not going to pay our bills. Okay, back to the MLS. Now, everybody here should have their own personalized login to the multiple listing service. Okay? Who knows how to run a hot sheet? Okay, I see a couple of hands. If you don't know how to run a hot sheet, you need to learn. This is not the day to learn how to run a hot sheet. Okay? Now, I'm not going to run my personal hot sheet because I have someone in my office run my personal hot sheet for me every day, and the information on there is important to me, and I don't want to mess it up. The reason I don't want to mess it up, what happens when if I run my hot sheet this morning at 8 o'clock, and then I wait till tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, what happens? What does the hot sheet give me? Any new data, okay? So I unfortunately, for training purposes, I can't run my own personal hot sheet, because if I do, I'm going to mess up my assistant tomorrow morning, because the data is not going to work, because everything that she ran this morning at 8 is now going to be chopped off. So I'm not going to run my own, but you all need to have your own personal hot sheet, okay? And you need to run it every day. And you can have multiple hot sheets, okay? But on this specific hot sheet, since we're talking about expired listings, okay, you at least want your hot sheet to include expired listings for the area that you want to work, okay? And again, you can have multiples. But let's just, for example, you have a special hot sheet that says, give me active, pendings, closed, and expired listings for my city, okay? Now, depending on how big your city is, and you can have multiple cities, you can say, give me Riverside and give me Corona, and maybe let's throw in Norco, whatever. You can have multiple. You can go as big or small as you want. But at any rate, what we're looking for specifically is expired. So we're going to do this. We're not going to do this if I was running a hot sheet. Obviously, we would run this different. So we're going to do a search residential. I don't want to do that. Bear with me. I'm certainly not an MLS expert. Oh, I'm sorry. Residential.
You can actually go over to.
Here we go. Okay. I'm going to run, yeah, I know, if I'm already messing up here, I don't run the MLS every day, so you guys can probably, I used to be able to do backflips in this thing. But anyway, as you can already tell, I'm not an expert. But what I've done is I've said, give me expired status. I want expired listings, because that's what I'm looking for. I want listings that expired when? Last night. Okay, that'll give me everything in my area. That expiration date, what's today? Today's the 6th. 01/05/2020.